Everyone. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Tonight, we are privileged to have James Comiskey from SBJ here with his music teacher, Daniel Johns, and he will be performing a piano solo for us before we begin tonight's meeting. Thank you so much, James. That was wonderful. What a way to start the evening. Pastor Matt Owen from Community Bible Church of Orange Park is here to lead us in our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father, we want to thank you for the opportunity to meet this evening and for the many fine people who work in our school system. We want to pray for the students here in Clay County. We believe that children are a blessing from you, and we want to thank you for them. We pray that our school system would faithfully carry out their responsibilities to teach them and train them for success in life. And I pray that you would use these efforts to help our students reach their full potential. I pray for our teachers and our school administrators that you would give them wisdom and courage in what they do. I pray that you give them compassion for the students. I pray that you give them strength and help them not to grow weary in well-doing. And I pray that you would help them do what we know they want to do, which is make a difference in the lives of our young people. Lord, I also pray for our school board as they lead our county. I pray that they would make decisions that are in the best interests of the students. I pray that you would give them wisdom as they seek to support the teachers and the administrators and the parents and the students. I pray that they would be able to lead with integrity and compassion. I thank you for their service to our community. Finally, Lord, I thank you for Jesus, in whom the Bible says are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. We ask these things in his name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Pastor. I will now call to order the school board meeting of March 2nd, 2023, our regular board meeting. Welcome, citizens of Clay County. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend tonight's school board meeting. This meeting is our opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly and make decisions that will decide the future direction of our public schools and the education of our children here in Clay County. If you wish to address the board on an agenda item, there will be an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Please fill out a card, which you'll find in the back of the room, indicating the specific item number or topic you wish to speak about, and then turn it in promptly to one of our officers. If you have items that you would like to present to the school board or superintendent, please hand them to an officer who will distribute them accordingly. No additional cards will be accepted once the board moves to the public comment section under presentations from the audience. Your participation is always welcomed and appreciated. Now we have Ms. Dana Savoy, our elementary literacy specialist, here to recognize our spelling bee winners.
All right, good evening, board members, and good evening, Superintendent Broski. So becoming a spelling bee champion requires extensive preparation and hard work. And so I'm here tonight to recognize the students that have accomplished that goal. My name, like you said, is Dana Savoy, and I'm the elementary literacy specialist, and I'm also one of the spelling bee coordinators. But before we begin, let's have some fun. So the students who participated in the spelling bee were challenged with a lot of difficult words. So let's see how you can spell one of the words that they had to spell during our county-wide spelling bee. Okay? All right. So this isn't even one of the hardest ones. We kind of went easy on you. So the word for you to spell is incontrovertible. Okay, the word is incontrovertible. So jot it down, take a mental note. I'll see how you did at the end. So each element, am I causing a ruckus? Okay, hold it in your head if you can. I know it's a long one. So each elementary school and junior high students, 5th through 8th grade, participated in spelling bees at their school. And we have a few pictures to share with you tonight from a few of those bees. Some of the ones that made it or did not make it, but each spelling bee was very special in its own self. I was honored to be a judge at some of them, and they were just really fun. And the kids, the kids did a great job. It takes a lot of courage for them to get up there and spell words in front of everyone staring at them. So we are very proud of them for participating. So I would take a second to thank many people that made this event possible. So first of all is Rebecca Billiot. She's our secondary literacy specialist, and she is out of town at a conference right now, but she really had a hand. I get to be the face of it, but she's really the work behind it all. She planned everything so it went seamlessly. We'd also like to thank Mallory McConnell at Lake Asbury Junior High. That was our host school, and her custodians were amazing with helping us set up and take down chairs. They did it with a smile on their face, so we really appreciate them for hosting us, and hopefully they'll continue to have us. We'd also like to thank WJXT Channel 4. They sponsored our event, and they also provided provided all of our winners and participants with certificates. And also thanks to Kelly Watt, who did a fabulous job. She was in charge of rules. She served as our pronouncer, and we could not have had a better person for the job. She's so tactful in all the things she says to the students and keeping them kind of calm down when they're on the stage. So thank you, Kelly. We appreciate that. We would also like to thank our judges, Amanda Strickland, Rebecca Van Geisem Harrison, and Stephanie Navarro, who did a great job judging our competition. I would also like to give a special shout out to Heather Tito, Mr. Broski, and to Jenny Shepard. Those individuals were gracious enough to welcome our guests, hand out our certificates, and give out our fabulous trophies. The trophies were amazing that they had. So thank you so much for being part of that night and making it special for students and families. And last but not least, I would also like to thank the board members, Mary Bulla and Beth Clark, who attended our event that night. It was very nice to have you there and taking your time to do that for students. So like I said earlier, 5th through 8th grade students competed. There were 36 students who made it to our county level B, and the spelling bee lasted 9 rounds, and our winning word this year was eradicate. So now I'd like to recognize our 1st through 3rd place winners. And students, if you're in attendance tonight, when you hear your name, if you would come up, I have another honorary certificate for you in this fancy gold seal Clay County folder that they made for us. So let's get to it. So actually heard from Max's family, and they're not able to attend tonight, but they said thank you so much for the recognition for him. And this kid was so excited. He had so much fun participating. He made my night. But this is Max Rivera. He attends St. John's Country Day School, and he was our 3rd place champion. So good job, Max. And then we have Andreas Alvarez. He is here with us tonight. He's from Orange Park Junior High, and he was our 2nd place champion. All right. There you go. Oh, yep. Just with, okay. Okay, drum roll, please. Our winner is Rena Reddish. She's from Keystone Heights Junior Senior High, and she's our 1st place champion. Okay, awesome. So on behalf of Clay County School District, congratulations to all of our participants and especially to our champions. So, you ready to see how you did? Okay. Well, first of all, oh yeah, this is a good picture of all the winners, Ms. Tito and Mr. Broski. Incontrovertible, how did you do? Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Ms. Savoy. Next, we will have Katie Ruelas, our science curriculum specialist, to recognize the state and international science fair nominees.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent Broski and everybody here today. I'm Katie Ruelas. I'm the Science Curriculum Specialist and also our District Science Fair Director. I don't have a fun word to spell or a science problem for you to solve, although I probably should have come up with one. But I am very excited to introduce the nominees from our district for the State Science Fair this year. So this year, hundreds of students in our district chose to participate in a process of scientific discovery and engineering design. These students asked a scientific question or identified an engineering problem to be solved, and they then worked over the course of months to research their topic, develop a procedure to investigate their question, or create a prototype, and then gather data on their results. Students who showed well at their school fairs were then chosen to participate in our regional Clay Rotary Science and Engineering Fair. So this year, our Clay Rotary Science and Engineering Fair was held February 7th at the Clay County Fairgrounds, and we hosted 135 total students with 63 junior level projects. So those are students in grades 6 through 8. And then also 45 senior level projects, so those are students in grades 9 through 12. Judging took place over the course of the day, and we resulted with 39 category place winners, 17 special award winners, 6 nominees for the Thermo Fisher Junior Innovators Challenge, which is a separate fair that students can choose to enter, and they can win trips to Washington, D.C. and money. And also 10 nominees for our State Science and Engineering Fair and 2 nominees for our International Science and Engineering Fair. None of this would be possible without the support from our really amazing sponsors. So I would like to recognize Lisa Ashworth, who is here from the Rotary Club of Orange Park. She hid her certificate. And also the Rotary Club of Orange Park. They really do an amazing job of making sure that we have our facilities secured. They bring all of the judges, primarily come from the Rotary Club, and they have for years. They financially support our fair, and they sponsor awards. So this year, the students who won a category award received a gift certificate or gift card, and also our state and international fair winners won gift cards that can support their trip to the state and international fairs. So thank you. So it is now my honor to introduce to you the nominees from Clay Rotary for the Science and Engineering Fair. If you are one of my Science Fair winners and you're present today, if you'll come on up so that we can recognize you. Come on. Yeah, come now. Come now. The first, just stand and we'll bring you your certificates. So the first one we want to recognize is Dylan Barclay from Orange Park High School. His project was Poseidon's Wind with a focus on creating a tankless method for scuba diving. No, just stay. Don't move. Next, we want to recognize Joshua Chun and Antonio Estrada from Orange Park Junior High, and their project was Robot Wheels Effect on Agility and Accuracy. They're both here. Yes. Not here this evening is Aaliyah Davis from Clay High School, who did a project on harnessing humidity, a novel method to diminish water scarcity in Ethiopia. Angelo De La Rosa is not here this evening, but he's also from Ridgeview High School, and his project was a novel application including usage of deep learning algorithms, 3-channel accelerometers, and gyroscopic technologies to assist the visually impaired in surroundings identifications. And the project is as impressive as it sounds. Not here this evening from Clay High School is Michael Gilkey. What plant irrigation technique is most efficient with its water consumption? Also, Clay High School, not here this evening, Austin Hallett, the ionic wind thruster. And Merrick Raposa from Clay High School, to what extent are knee savers worth the extra weight? He's not here this evening either. I think he might be at a baseball game right now. And Phoenix Ricketts from Ridgeview High School, cellulose isolation from sorghum bicolor biomass via alkaline hydrogen peroxide treatment. Not here. We also have 2 scholars this evening that were nominated for both the state and international science fair. The International Science Fair this year is held in Dallas, Texas from May 15th through the 19th. And one of our nominees is actually going to be missing her high school graduation in order to attend. So Emma DeWong from Ridgeview High School, Titanium Bonds, a study on the efficacy of varied surface preparation methods on titanium substrates for optimized structural adhesion. Truly one of the most impressive projects I've ever seen. And then also Alexander Gordon from Ridgeview High School, motion profiling algorithm for improved intelligent machine target correction. Also very impressive. We are all looking forward to seeing how these scientists represent our district in Lakeland, April 4th through 6th. And on behalf of Clay County School District, congratulations, scientists, and thank you for sharing your passions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ellis, and all of our amazing scientists here in Clay County. You guys are going to change and shape the world. Next, we have John Scromolo. I almost said it like Miss Bola. Oh my goodness. Excuse me, Mr. Scromolo. He's going to recognize the Clay High School girls weightlifting team champions and Clay High and Fleming Island High individual state champions.
Good evening, school board, and good evening, Superintendent Broski. I'm so excited and honored to be here tonight to recognize some unbelievable student athletes. I can tell you that it's very fitting that March is Women's History Month. These young ladies are solidifying themselves in the history of Florida high school sports. To start out, I'd like to we're going to recognize 3 individual state champions and then a rarity in the state of Florida, a team girls weightlifting state championship. Our first state champion is from Fleming Island High School. She came in first place in the Swanee Invitational out of 26 lifters in her weight class. She was the Clay County champion in traditional lifting, and she was a district champion. She was a regional champion, and she was the state champion in traditional in the traditional category and 6th in Olympic. But here's the most impressive. She set the all-time Florida High School Athletic Association bench press record in the 110-pound weight class with a bench press of 180 pounds. She's an outstanding young lady, and we're super excited to see her future. She's led by her coach, Sean Coltis of the Fleming Island Golden Eagles, state champion, Autumn Leviston. I'm going to do the next two a little differently. Can all the Clay High girls weightlifters, the whole team, please come to the front? You guys just want to stay here, and then I'll let you introduce the team after. I'll introduce you first. Yeah, okay. All right, so first what we're going to do is we're going to introduce the two young ladies that won individual titles this year. First up, this young lady, and I mean this wholeheartedly, I would never say something like this publicly unless I truly meant it. Barring everything works out, no injuries, this young lady could be mentioned with the likes of Caleb Dressel in the future for Clay County. She's that talented in this sport. Emma Heck is the Florida high school state record holder in the snatch with 170 pounds. She's the state record holder in the clean and jerk at 210 pounds. She's the back-to-back state champion in the 129-pound weight class. And this year, she'll be competing at Worlds as a member of Team USA. And not to mention, she's a sophomore. Our next individual state champion, also equally as impressive, was last year's state runner-up in the snatch competition. She was last year's state champion in the traditional competition, and she also won state this year in the Olympic competition with a 390-pound total combination. This year in the traditional competition, she had a 450-pound total in the competition. Your back-to-back state champion, Kylie LaFerry. There we go. Okay. The team as a whole just has an outstanding resume that it's going to be super impossible to surpass, in my opinion. Over the past 2 years, these girls right in front of you have amassed 23 individual state medals, 9 individual state championships, with back-to-back team state titles. Over the past 4 years, this group of amazing student athletes have amassed 4 district titles, 4 regional titles, and 4 state titles as well. And that doesn't happen without the leadership of coaching. And I'm just going to tell you that I would not miss the opportunity to talk about, in Clay County, we strive to have a world-class student-athlete experience. And you say, wow, that's a shiny word salad, Mr. Scrumolo. What does that actually mean? Well, it means 3 things. It means having academic accountability and opportunity for our students, leadership, education, and community service opportunities. But most importantly, like we know how important the character development is in athletics in our district, but we do want to win, right? Because in life, we want to win. We want to win with our families and win with our jobs. So we want to have athletic opportunities through relentless positive coaching. And that's the epitome of their head coach, Mr. Rodney Keller. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Coach Keller and also his assistant, who's a Clay High alumni, right? And also a former lifter, Coach Nolan. Coach Keller is going to introduce the team. Coach Keller.
To say that I'm proud of these girls is a complete and utter understatement. I really, the fact that they're here tonight, I can't stop grinning ear to ear. And the thing that I'm most proud of about our girls is not just the state titles and the medals and the moments and the memories, is really the kids that they are. The things that people do see, I should say, is them competing and winning and having tremendous success. What people don't see is the people that they are. And as a coach and as a person who, Coach Scrimmelo talked about developing character in kids and our athletes and our students, that's the thing I take the most pride in. We went to meets this year. When beats are breaking down, it's an hours-long process to set those things up and break them down. And our kids, I'm proud to say, we're on the floor helping break everything down and clean everything up and just going out of their way to do little things that most people aren't willing to do. At the end of the day, as proud as I am as a head coach of them as athletes, I'm even more proud as people. To see where our program's gone in the last, the 4 years is a testament to these girls being willing to do the very thing that we've challenged them to do for the last 4 years, which is simply to just show up. Just show up to a coach who has a plan for you. Just show up in the classroom who has a teacher who has a plan for you. Just show up day in and day out on the days that you don't feel like doing those things and consistently do those things over time and ultimately reach all of your goals. The girls have done that, and their success to this point in time is a testament of their willingness to do little things better than almost anybody else. I'm so proud as their head coach. This past year, we had 8 individual state qualifiers to go compete at the Class 2A meet. That was in Lakeland here a couple of weeks ago. And I have to confess, it's hard to win in the first place. Having success is a tremendously difficult thing, but even possibly more difficult and challenging than that is having sustained success, because then the pressure comes with that and the expectation to win. All these girls did was show up, and I challenged them the weeks leading up to the state competition, the state meet, to just show up and have fun and put it on the bar, because the work's already been done. It was time to collect what they've earned over time. This year, again, we qualified 8 girls for the state weightlifting meet for the state championships. The first at 119 pounds was Kettany Gideon. The second at 129 pounds was Miss Emma Heck. The third at 139 pounds was Miss Anna Shepard. Next at 154 pounds was Miss Janiyah Stevens. Next at 183 pounds was Miss Anna Lee Harbison. Next at 199 pounds was Miss Ansley Lyda. In the unlimited class, Miss Kenya Tignero. And finally, but certainly not least, Miss Kylie Lafari. Congrats, girls. I'm so proud of you guys.
And some of you are probably like, why are they taking so much time with this? Because I'm telling you, this does not happen. Last year, they won the first time in Clay County history in girls weightlifting, a team state title. And then this year, they did it again. Back-to-back state champions, the Clay High Blue Devils.
Thank you so much, Mr. Scrimmelo. And girls, I am amazed once again. You did it once and you did it again. Fantastic job. Way to represent Clay County, and I'm just in awe of your dedication and hard work and how it's paid off. All right, this will be the last call for comment card. Oh, I'm so sorry. I almost skipped over the school showcase. Forgive me. Tonight we have Miss Elise Taylor, principal of S. Bryan Jennings Elementary School, here to tell us about all the things going on at their great school.
Thank you, Mr. Broski and school board members, for the opportunity to showcase S. Bryan Jennings Elementary this evening. I want to also recognize several of our faculty and staff that assisted with tonight's presentation and give credit to them. Ms. Atkinson, Ms. Gleneski, Ms. Ruckersfelt, Ms. Bertel, Ms. Pearson, and Ms. Batts. Several of them were also featured in tonight's presentation. Ms. Chapman and I are honored, and we're so grateful that we are able to work alongside our tremendous faculty and staff each and every day. S. Bryan Jennings Elementary has a rich history in the Orange Park community. In 1967, we opened our doors as a concept school, a true work of art. We were designed with specific architectural intent. Our legacy of serving as a showcase school is deeply rooted in our grandiose beginnings and continues today, showcasing collaboration, which is seen in classroom engagement and professional learning communities. As a controlled open enrollment school, we have the opportunity to serve many students and families from surrounding counties, in addition to those residing in our school zone. Our faculty and staff work to ensure that we serve the whole child by addressing not only academics, but life skills that will allow our students to maximize their success and prepare them to be contributing members in society. Our faculty and staff collaborated to create common expectations, commitments, and a vision. We hold one another accountable as we have high expectations, engage students, remain positive, energetic, collaborative, prepared, respectful, and continue to foster a strong sense of community. We are each committed to putting children first and ensuring safety as a priority. These collective commitments are what power our vision. As a unified and collaborative team, all members of our faculty and staff are valued for the contributions and service they bring to support our students, parents, and entire school community. Some of our staff have a rich history here as well. Oh, you can't hear her. Well, that's Miss Jean. She's our head custodian. She was in the very first kindergarten class
I was one of
at
the original
SBJ.
kindergartners.
Oh, there she is. You hear her saying she's our head custodian, and she was one of
Miss
the
Jean.
original. Oh, there she
I'm a
is.
head custodian here at S. Bryan Jennings Elementary School. I've been here since 2005. And in 1968, I was one of the original kindergartners.
Last year, we had significant gains of 114 points. We closed learning gaps. We pushed many of our scholars into proficiency and above. Some of the big highlights and celebrations within this growth were our learning gains. In ELA, we were at 60% or higher. Our lower quartile was also at or above 60%, specifically sixth grade, 62%. In mathematics, our overall learning gains were at 68%, and sixth grade hit 83% in learning gains. The lower quartile learning gains in math were at 64%, and our fourth grade hit 83%. Our high expectations, our consistency in providing high-quality instruction, and our devotion to our students, impressing upon them we will not let them fail, paid off, which was a great way for us to begin this school year. Therefore, our focus remains the same as we work on building to perfection, one child at a time. So all 521 of our students are proficient or beyond. We have continued working to improve and grow our sphere of influence to make a difference for each of our scholars. Looking at current proficiency levels, we're on target with our school improvement plan goals to increase our mathematics and English language arts proficiency levels through our consistency with rigorous Tier 1 instruction.
So I wrote 6 up here, so I cut it into 6 equal parts, and then I made the lines down here, and then I counted till I. Minus 1 equals 4. Since I get rid of 1.
We have continued with small group instruction that is differentiated based upon individual student data on a daily basis, so we steadily maximize student growth.
What orthograph means how something is done, class? So tell me the word that means how something is light, class? Lightly.
Usually we work with them horizontally, but when we're rounding, we try to say work with it vertically.
Already got my answer.
Our SBJ teachers and staff are highly qualified, providing rigorous Tier 1 instruction to students each and every day. Our collaboration continues to be fueled by our literacy leadership team's goal this year, supporting our professional learning community work. To be consistent with planning common formative assessments and reviewing student data to inform our instructional practices. Bless you. In fact, we mentor educational interns from local colleges to allow them to learn from our instructional practices. We currently have 11 UNF interns for this spring semester. We also have a number of clubs that offer scholars after-school activities where they can cultivate and showcase all of their talents and gifts. We are always working to continually improve our positive culture and environment through our PBIS program. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education." We have consistent school-wide expectations for students to practice responsibility, act kind and respectful, work hard, and stay safe. Students receive pride slips and positive referrals traded in for weekly incentive drawings, recognition, and the ability to shop in our Pause Parlor.
Hi, I'm Nancy Kleneski. I am the Title I reading coach and PBIS lead here at SBJ. We are a PBIS school. Recently, we opened a Pause Parlor. Our students are able to earn Pause Bucks in order to purchase things at the Pause Parlor. This is done by positive behaviors recognized by any of our staff members. This year, we earned gold status, and we are looking forward to earning platinum next year.
Over the years, we've cultivated a number of strong partnerships with supporting community organizations and businesses that have provided generous donations, volunteered for service projects, and aided in events or offered opportunities for our entire SBJ community. We are grateful for Skate Station, Chuck E. Cheese, Chick-fil-A, Journey Church, the VFW, Christ's Church, Coggin Buick GMC, and many more. We have even had the fortune to partner with several Girl Scouts and Eagle Scouts that have chosen SBJ as the beneficiary of their service projects. We work to find ways to connect with our families and partner in educating, as well as improve our overall attendance of students. We host a number of parent and family engagement events, such as Math Night, Literacy Night, student-led data chats for each grade level, monthly coffee and conversation meetings, and more. Our goal is to encourage our families to be active participants with us in the education process. A frequent phrase that's used on campus, it's a great day at SBJ, because when our students enter the gates, they know we are a safe place for them to prosper. All of the adults on campus are united to ensure their success. Thank you so much for the opportunity to showcase S. Bryan Jennings Elementary and highlight the many ways that we serve our scholars.
Thank you so much, Ms. Taylor. This is the last call for comment cards from the audience. We are moving into presentations from the audience at this time. Anybody have a comment card that they've not yet turned in? Give me a wave so I know to pause for a moment. Okay. So I had a couple of comment cards that the same person filled out more than one card, which is fine. You can speak to as many topics as you would like to during your 3 minutes, but each person will be given 3 minutes total to cover whatever it is that they'd like to address, okay? I'm going to call the first person to the podium, and then I'll call the second person to kind of be waiting in the wings because we have quite a few to hear from tonight, all right? The first person up is, forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Angel Reed. And then on deck will be Heather Castells.
Okay, that's okay. All right, good evening. My address is on file. My name is Angel Reed, and I'm a parent of a Clay student and a paraprofessional in the specialized ESA classrooms serving students with complex medical needs at a high school level, and I absolutely love my job. I am so sorry. Let me rephrase that. I am passionate about my job. I love everything about Clay County and these kids and what I do. Every day I wake up excited and happy that I get to do these things with these amazing people and individuals. How many people get to say that? It is truly a blessing. I've worked in Clay County for the past 4 years, and my heart belongs to these students. I am here today because I need your help. I am having to look outside of the county to support my family as a widowed mother of 2. I don't want to leave my students. I love them. But I cannot afford to put food on the table for my family. Our ESA classrooms are all short-staffed, and I know how my leaving will impact these students. So I'm standing before you, and I'm asking you to find a way to provide a livable income to the support staff, not just myself. I currently make $15 an hour, making less than 34 hours a week. 18 would be enough to help me stay. I know that 18 sounds like a jump from 15, but when you consider what goes into the day in and day outs of our classroom, it's really not that unreasonable. On an average day, we prepare food, including pureeing it to spoon feed students. Some are tube fed, and some need assistance with self-feeding. We change adult diapers for both men and women, and we deal with all things related to bathrooming. We also have medical crises, such as seizures and self-harming behaviors, physical needs of our students who are wheelchair-bound, and overcoming language barriers due to the inability of our students to even speak, and making sure that all of our students are cared for. I have been bitten and hit on numerous occasions. With all this going on, we still manage to get our lessons done. Our students deserve assistants who love them, like I do. But we need to be able to survive as well. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the support staff, and I hope that you can brainstorm ideas to keep us in the classrooms with our most fragile and medically needy students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Heather Castells, and on deck will be Jackie Setnar.
Good evening. You guys have my address on file. My name is Heather Castell, and I have happily taught in Clay County for the past 24 years. I love Clay County. Both my daughters attend public school here, and as some of you know, my passion for special education, and I love working with our students with disabilities. I enjoy and take pride in finding the best way to help my students learn, try new methods, new techniques to give my students the best opportunities. This is my calling, and I am thankful for how Clay County runs their ESE program. I'm here before you today, my very first time ever speaking before the school board to ask for help. And while there are many important things to talk about today, like access to books, that's why I actually sat down to write this, to work up the courage to speak to, and I realized I had another topic I had to talk to you about first. So I needed to get your help with support staff for our ESE classrooms. My assistants work so hard. They change teenagers, men's and women's diapers. They do tube feedings because that's not part of my job, that's theirs. Health monitoring, seizures, behaviors, and they also help me instruct my kids. I can't do my job without them. And those of you who know me know how I am about doing my job. We have the proper amount of staff allocated to our school. We can't fill the positions. Did you know that Clay County has 22 classroom assistant positions open right now, and all but 2 of them are in special education classrooms? We are struggling. We get 1 or 2 applicants every few weeks, and my admin is great. They always work to get new applicants. In the interview, we like the people, they like us, I sell them. You know, it's hard to sell people to change diapers. So I sell them on our program, we submit them for screening, HR calls them, they find out their pay, they turn down the job. And because we have multiple positions open, in addition, my current assistants are worried about making ends meet. And they don't want to leave the county, but I've got more than half my staff looking for new jobs. They're finding places that offer full 40 hours, more hours than 33.75 and higher pay right now. Wawa's what, $17, $20 an hour. I need your help. And I come to you asking for help, and I am willing to help brainstorm. We came up just this afternoon with some ideas of maybe supplements for our highest need classrooms, because I know other units sometimes make more than my assistants do in my classroom. Maybe more hours to help get prep work done, gas cards to help them drive back and forth from Jacksonville. One person even mentioned she would be grateful if she could have free breakfast and lunch at school. I need you, our school board, to help our students by providing incentives to help us get new hires. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Jackie Setnar, and on deck is Rebecca Crawford.
Hello, this is my first time speaking here. I have been here to other meetings. My name and address is on file, and I am here to advocate for the First Amendment to read for Clay students. I trust the media specialists in our schools to make good judgments about books available in our school libraries. Parents certainly have the right to control what their kids can read, but I oppose the notion that they have the right to restrict what books are available to other kids. Instead of infringing on the rights of other students, parents who don't want their kids to read specific books should have a choice to opt out of the library access or require their permission before borrowing a book. I also brought a book here that supposedly is under review. I read the book. I see no reason why it should be even under review. It's a very simple book, just about someone coming from another country, living here, getting adjusted in the United States like many people have done in the past. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Rebecca Crawford, and on deck will be Kathy Graham.
Hello, and thank you. My name is Rebecca. Okay. When I was a child, I met 4 people that were survivors of the Holocaust. Now, a lot of people don't believe it even existed, but I've seen these people myself. And they told me that there were 3 things that they really wanted. 1 was food, 2 was clothing, and 3 was books. If you start censorship now, it's going to cause a big problem, just like it did back then. Please, I'm begging you, don't do this. If the parents don't want the children to read these books, let them send a note to the teacher. You can keep the books in the library, put them in different organizations. You know, don't keep the children from reading them. And besides, they can see it on their phones. They see it in TV. Don't stop them now. Thank you.
Next, we have Kathy Graham, and on deck is Sandra Goldman.
My name is Kathy Graham, and my address is on the card. Newsflash, have you all heard of the internet? Have you noticed about every kid has a cell phone with access to all kinds of information? You can ban books, but it's naive to think you can't stop kids from finding any book they want to read, along with all kinds of information online. Maybe you've noticed all the kids totally absorbed in a virtual world on their cell phones. All kinds of information is at their fingertips. Banning books is not just undemocratic, but it is an archaic way to keep information away from kids, and it won't happen.
Next is Sandra Goldman, and on deck is James Gay.
Hi, my name is Sandy Goldman. My full address is on the card I submitted to you. I'm an educator who retired from a state where academic freedom flourished and where teachers and media specialists were trusted, respected, and treated as professionals. It is heartbreaking to see what is happening to education and how teachers are being vilified in Florida. I'm here tonight because I'm alarmed about the outsized impact a few ideologically motivated folks are having on availability of books and clay and the process you are proposing to address book challenges. Not referring to pornography, please. Doesn't seem fair nor very democratic for this school board to ban a book because one person has complained about it. It appears you've taken steps to immediately remove books that are challenged and are not returning them to library shelves regardless of the outcome of a review. It's government censorship. And it is surprising to me that a public school system in America is acting as though it has more to lose if they stand up for, their students' First Amendment right to read than if they become agents of censorship themselves. For a public school to allow themselves to be bullied and pressured by the ideological or religious preferences of a select few over the rights of all students, in my opinion, clearly is a sad state of affairs, and it does not bode well for our public schools or our democracy. I would ask that you rethink how you're reacting to this latest attack on our public schools. There is no outcry from parents of clay to ban books. When given the opportunity, I understand, to limit books their kids could access in Clay's school libraries, parents of only 3 students out of some 30,000 opted to do so. In addition, there's plenty of research to indicate that the majority of voters oppose banning books. So I'd like to make a few recommendations. Instead of removing every challenged book from the school library, offer all parents the choice to restrict their children's access to these books or any library books. Parents who want to restrict their kids' access to challenged books or want their kids to get their permission to borrow a library book should be offered a choice of various levels of restrictions. The parental responsibility to choose a level of restriction should be on the parents who want those limitations. Parents who choose to allow full access for their kids should not need to take action at all. No opt-in needed. Their kids should not have to jump through hoops, get permission, and pledge secrecy to borrow a book. So offering parents an opt-out option would be the simplest way, and I think it would assure democracy and protect the First Amendment right to read for all students. And finally, I want to just mention, as a high school student in Texas memorably stated to his school board, no government, and public school is an extension of the government. has ever banned books and banned information from its public and been remembered as the good guys in history.
Next, we have James Gay. And on deck is Luann Eckert.
Good evening. My name is Chris Kay, and my name and address are on file. I've lived in Green Cove Springs since 2010. My wife and I are both retired from the Navy after 34 years respectively. We lived all over the world. Our children have attended public schools in Japan, North Carolina, California, and Green Cove Springs. My daughter is also the valedictorian at Clay High School. She went on to NYU and then to Johns Hopkins. And right now she's an international economist and an international trade specialist. She's at G20 right now. My son went to Green Cove Springs Junior High. He graduated from Clay High School, where he was also captain of the swim team when a famous person was on his team. He went to St. John's River College before transferring to UCF, where he graduated with honors. So what's my point? They got a good education. They got a good education because they had good teachers who were trained and certified to teach. If I need a doctor, they better be licensed. The same is true of those deciding what educational materials are best for my child. Someone's personal opinion does not trump the licensed expertise of educators. There was not a problem here. Nothing needed to be fixed besides improving their salaries. I also happen to be Greek Orthodox. My friend Manju is Hindu. My other friends Nancy and Cheryl are Roman Catholic, Doug's agnostic, Lori is Jewish, and other friends are Muslim, spiritualist, or Buddhist. They're all happy that they have the First Amendment guarantee both the freedom of and from religion. Enforcing one's religious point of view is called a theocracy, with names like Iran, the Taliban, or ISIS. We forget that the colonists on the Mayflower were fleeing religious persecution from other Christians when they came here. Like other parents, our children and their friends are African American, Caucasian, East Indian, American Indian, Hispanic, Asian, and LGBTQ. That is who they are, and they deserve to see themselves reflected in both the literature that they read and the curriculum they receive. They deserve the truth. Their family histories include the expulsion of Native Americans, the Trail of Tears, Wounded Knee, slavery, lynchings, Jim Crow, the internment of the Japanese, the truth about the Civil War, and the civil rights era of the 60s. Those are the ugly things that went into making America. Our ability to overcome ourselves is what makes America great. The current books in dispute were already screened by educators and should stay on the shelves until a decision is made to remove them, not hidden away with a lengthy process to see them first. Strangers didn't just show up one day and drop them off. A list of titles being disputed with the actual objection should be published before the review board meets to allow interested parents to advocate for them if they want. Book bannings have happened in the past. We have all seen how it works out, not well. The result is marginalized people and ignorance of history and, in some cases, war. Our children deserve better than this. America deserves better than this, and all parents deserve a say in what our children are taught, not just a selective few of a particular persuasion. The elephant in the room here is religious intolerance. We're better than that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Luann Eckert, and on deck is Tara Richardson.
Luann Eckert, address on file. I would like to speak about the proposed changes to the challenge materials procedures under board agenda item 34C8, challenge materials procedure. On and on. In the challenge materials procedure reconsideration proposed language, I have the following comments. Language outlines that the District Curriculum Council for reconsideration shall be comprised of rotating teams of no fewer than 5 persons, that the team membership consists of various district employees and one parent of a student. I would request consideration that a member of the community be added to the team membership, and that a member would not necessarily have a student in the district, so they don't necessarily have to. My children have attended Clay schools in the past, and I feel there is a need for a community member outside the district. Referring to the paragraph that reads, in order to participate in the District Curriculum Council for reconsideration, all members must complete training in the method for analyzing and reviewing instructional and library materials. I recommend language be added as follows. clarify who will develop the training program and how it is approved. The training shall also include the requirements for council members to read the entire material prior to final committee review. This is very important to me, and I do not know if people that are on these review boards, if they're required, or do they just go and on book looks and find out information? I mean, anybody that can fog a mirror can do the same thing. I'm asking that these people be required to read the book. Finally, I would like to review these books that have already been reconsidered and their current status. Would you be able to send me the information or the Clay District website that I may review these? In other words, I'm asking to see that the books that were brought for reconsideration and what happened. What was the vote on? I want to know what they are. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tara Richardson, and on deck is Jennifer Burkhart.
I'm just going to say thing two is braver than me because she's had her wig on the whole evening. My name is Tara Richardson, and my address is on the card. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Clay County Educators Retired Group and against book censorship. One of the two items that, of course, we would like to speak to the board regarding tonight, and I hope that explains the outfit. It's also the beginning of Women's History Month, and I would like to share a little bit of my history. My husband and I have raised 2 children in the 40-plus years that we've lived in Clay. I've taught social studies and have been an administrator at Middleburg High School and at Fleming Island High School, no wig, prior to my retirement in 2011. I've had the honor of speaking before the school board in the past, but I will say that tonight I'm particularly nervous. The concept of book banning is fraught with examples in history. Unfortunately, this is yet another attempt to place our citizens on polar opposites of opinion. Sometimes those on both sides need to do a little better job of listening. In 1936, Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell was first published. And in 1939, the Legion of Decency banned the movie version for American Catholics because of the final phrase that was issued by Clark Gable. I don't think I need to tell you that. My grandmother didn't see the movie because she was a good Catholic, but my mother did, and she thought it was pretty spectacular, ergo my name. 50 years ago, I became aware that there were banned books at my high school, and yes, we did have books then, we didn't do it on parchment paper. As soon as I saw the list, I hustled off to the public library to find out what Holden Caulfield was doing as he aged through into adulthood in The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. I didn't become Holden, but I learned from his travails. And 40 years ago, there were movements to have library books removed here in Clay. A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Gaulle was, according to complainants at the time, too feminist for children to read. Fortunately, at the time, we had a superintendent who was a former reading teacher and executives at the county office that were able to create a system for parents to opt out for any required reading assignments and to review what their own child read. Now Clay County has that opt-out form for all of the children in Clay County. I hope that my examples would illustrate how futile book banning was in 1936, 1974, and 1984. And obviously, there are lots of examples in world history of dictators and autocrats who wanted to control what their citizens had access to read. I want my children and my grandchildren to be exposed to a variety of points of view, not limited by the race or the gender of the author, giving them an appreciation of the rich cultural diversity that American libraries can offer today. Thank you.
Next, we have Jennifer Burkhart, and on deck will be Charles Walsett.
Hi, Jennifer Burkhart, address on file. I would like to start by saying in my 15 years of teaching, in addition to all of the syllabi I send home with all of my students, listing my major texts that we're reading, in addition to all of the parental notifications I send home that don't require a signed permission slip, in addition to all of the synergy, focus messages, emails I've sent to my parents and adults of my students, I have sent approximately 1,000 permission slips to give permission to show certain movies, movie clips, and books. I'm guessing because I'm trying to think. When I taught The Handmaid's Tale, I got parental permission from every single student's adult, and that was 75 times 3. So right there, that's already quite a bit. Then when I showed certain movies, we had to have parental permission. Out of the approximate 1,000 permission slips, meaning every single adult had to sign it, and I called because I was not going to, if it looked a little sketchy, I called. Not one parent declined anything I taught or read. So my point being is, in my personal experience, my parents have supported me, all right, and my decisions. So that being said, I want to segue to the 300 challenges, approximate 300 challenges that we do have. So first, if we want to get into the legislation, we of course have the obscenity law, and I understand that is a law. So I do want to point out that applies to any book in the media center, in the classrooms, all of that. However, we are conflating the parental rights law, which has to do with curriculum and instructional material. That has nothing to do with the media center. So all of our 300 challenges that have no sexual content, like Before She Was Harriet, absolutely no sexual content. That includes Dear Martin, Long Way Down, One of Us is Lying. Those are the ones I personally read in its entirety. I will not attest to any others. Those should be immediately returned to the media center bookshelves. And if a parent does not want them to read those books, they can opt out. My child is not opting in. Absolutely not. My child should not be penalized. The rights of other parents do not supersede my own rights to have my children read books that are not illegal to read. So let's first stop with that. Next, I would like to point out there are 28 books that have gone through a whole process that was unnecessary because these were not illegal to begin with because there was not any sexual content in them. So those books should immediately be returned to the shelves. We've already had a parent look at them. We've had administrators look at them. We've had media center specialists approve of them, all of them. Why are we not returning them to the shelves? They don't break any laws, even possibility of any laws. Next, I would like to point out, and I know I'm talking a lot, but I had to condense some things, so I want to address everything. We have a proposal. Oh, I only have 5 seconds. I'll have to hold that to next meeting. Or I'll email all y'all. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burkhart. Next, we have Charles Walsett, and on deck will be Haley Hutchins.
My spelling must be a little odd. That's an H at the end. No problem, no problem. It's good to see everybody. We have our opportunities to work together, and we've had some very good accomplishments over the years. I showed up here in 2005. I was interviewed at Orange Park High School. I came home and I said, it's old, it's beat up, but that's where I want to be. And it took me about a month before Wingate called me at the parking lot at Nice High School. Because my wife said, he's over there interviewing. And he called and he said, I got the spot. And I said, damn it, let's do this. And I've been there since, okay? Now, what I want to talk about is Congressman John Rankin, the GI Bill and redlining. Seems like an odd sort of thing. The GI Bill was formulated in 1944 to assist the millions of returning servicemen with interest-free, well, not interest-free, but with guaranteed loans for mortgages, for college education tuition, and for unemployment during their transition time. This benefited my father greatly. That's where he got his master's from OSU in chemistry, was because of the GI Bill. In the creation of the GI Bill, in 1944, some Southern Democrats were quite afraid of it because a lot of returning veterans were African Americans. So what they put into the law, Congressman Rankin, was that all VA benefits, all GI benefits would be administered through the states. What that meant was, for example, out of 680 mortgages in Mississippi cities, 2 were given to African Americans. This was because of the practice in institutions at the time of redlining. That was drawing maps with a red marker. You could not give a mortgage or home insurance to any African American wanting to purchase outside of that red line. This, the GI Bill, while a great thing, has been considered the greatest cause of racial economic disparity in the history of the United States. One hateful man in Mississippi created this. One person filled with spite. The man called for the banning and deportation of all Japanese Americans of Japanese heritage at one point. Might have been popular at the time in Mississippi. But what we're looking at here is nobody at the time was willing to stand up and do what was right. And I'm calling on you. What you do now will carry on in the future. It will harm this school district. You must take this seriously and not fall into the trap of the easy way out. Thank you. And we'll see more.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Next, we have Haley Hutchins, and on deck is Dr. Cornelius Jones.
Hi, I'm a student, so I don't have to say my address or anything. I've never spoken at a school board meeting. I never thought I should have to for this reason. But I feel that this is too important to be silent about. I just want to be able to read the books that we have previously had in our libraries for years. According to readingisfundamental.org, 25 million children in the United States cannot read proficiently. In Florida alone, 61% of students in 4th grade are not reading at a proficient reading level, based on the National Assessment of Educational Process. Instead of challenging these books, we should be pushing for our students to read more. Students, myself included, who actively read and use the library system have been discouraged. Not many of my peers want to read, but these books you are taking from us are very impactful to some. I understand that you call these challenges, but in reality, these are bans. Ban, noun, officially or legally prohibit. In the school district, if the school district owned these books and is denying access to such book, that is a ban. Now onto the actual books that are being banned. The book Unravel Me by Miss Mafi. I have read this book 4 times, 4 different times. The first time I read this was in 6th grade. Oh, this book is on the banned book list. The first time I read this was in 6th grade, and it was suggested to me by a fellow peer and a friend. I have since reread it. Not one single time did I feel uncomfortable reading it. There is no mention of sex or discrimination or gay people. Some of these books on your list are picture books written for children. Are you implying that me, a 17-year-old, am not mature enough to read? Or maybe not literate enough to read these books? Some might argue that you are protecting our innocence, but in reality, you are taking away our education. If you honestly believe that you are protecting our innocence, I would invite you to talk to some teenagers. Spend a day in a high school, even a junior high. You cannot censor the world from us. The topics that you think are too graphic, too mature, too brutal, are actually happening in the world. We aren't oblivious. We see news articles of things far more gruesome than these books. Lastly, I would like to suggest that you involve your students in your decisions on our education. Many students are unaware as to what is happening in our libraries. When the review of these challenge books occur, hopefully soon, include the students. We have read these books and can vouch for them, and it is directly affecting us. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. Next, we have Dr. Cornelius Jones, followed by Dorothy Muhlenberg.
Greetings, Superintendent Broski and school board members. My name is Dr. Cornelius Jones. My address is on file. I'm a Clay County resident and a father of 3 children that attended and graduated from Oak Leaf High School. As we know, the conversation around banning books has become a national issue. Some people believe this is a First Amendment right issue, but I understand that censorship does not violate the Constitution unless it's done by the government. I personally believe if the material is too graphic, such as pornography, or too vile, it has no place in school libraries. With that said, I've come this evening to express my support for the new policy. I think it's necessary for there to be governing standards on how books are challenged and reconsidered for instructional purposes. However, Everything shouldn't be challenged. Just because we don't like the imperfect portrait it paints. The new desire to eradicate elements of history comes with significant consequences. Either we will teach history as it occurred, or we accept being a delusional nation that can't handle the truth. If the books are pertaining to historical context around American, Black, and other culture history, I urge you to leave them. Without the dissemination of truth, all history becomes diluted and unworthy of being taught. No amount of new legislation will erase or change the past. As a researcher and clinician, I operate from a place of evidence by, meaning that all research and writings that I publish are rooted in evidence to support the findings. My challenge to the District Curriculum Council for reconsideration is to adopt guiding criteria rooted in evidence before removing books that may deprive students of an adequate education in history. There should be something measurable to go by to prevent any feelings, beliefs, emotions, or biases from being the deciding factor on books being permanently removed. One or two sentences should not be the defining factor. If it's not something where entire chapters are painted to portray hate or even to attack others, those things should not be interfered with. So with that said, I understand that some are appointed, some have been endorsed by the governor, but this should not come down to your affiliations with people in office and make this something that's policy related instead of something that you should be using from your own conscience. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dorothy Muhlenberg, and on deck will be Dr. Evelyn Dolly Hillman.
Good evening. I'm a resident of Clay County and have been for 10 years, but most of my life I've lived in the Virgin Islands and the Caribbean. And I was a school teacher, elementary, kindergarten, first, second, for many years down there. Now, the islands that I lived in were mostly African American children, though they were of many different hues, as you have here. And when I started in the 60s, the books that I was given for the children to learn to read on were far away from these children. They were really hard for them to understand. So when we started seeing a few books that had African American people in them, or at least stories about them, it made a huge difference for these little kids. They started coming out of their shells, and teaching them was really a joy. I've looked at some of the books that are questionable here, that are maybe being taken out of the Clay County schools, or actually Florida schools, libraries. And we need the ones that are about Rosa Parks and about Martin Luther King. There's so many books that are going to help everybody to understand more about our world, books about foreign countries. So I encourage you, the school board, to push that idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Hillman, followed by Gargi, I am so sorry, Chipolcati? Chipolcati, is that right? Did I say it right? Okay.
It's my pleasure to address you. I am a seasoned educator, 30 years in the Detroit Public Schools. My PhD is in guidance and counseling from the University of Michigan. And my dissertation dealt with moral education, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit later. But after so much time in education, 5 years as a teacher, 5 years as a guidance counselor, 15 years as a supervisor of counseling, and 5 years, my last 5 years, as the head of a vocational technical high school. After I finished all of that, I went as a missionary, and I taught teachers in Nigeria, in Haiti, and the Congo. And one of the things that I stressed to those teachers was the importance of being a good teacher. And I was really appalled when I realized that so much is being done to interfere with professional teachers being professional. If you pay someone to do a job, you expect them to do it to the best of their ability, and you should not tie their hands or hamper them. You wouldn't tell your electrician how to wire your house. So I'm appalled at the attempts to ban books and to alter curriculum so that people are not getting the whole truth. One of the things that I found in my dissertation research was the reason many young people were upset with their parents when they got older was they were deceived. They said they didn't get the whole truth. The parents held things from them they should be told. So when I think about what is happening here in some of the schools and what is being proposed, it is appalling. And we adults should be ashamed of ourselves. We should realize that we're not helping, we are hindering. If you don't give the whole truth, you are not educating. My problem in Haiti was I kept saying to them, that is not education, that's rote. You need to make sure people have all of the information so they can make intelligent decisions. We need to do our best as educators to give them all of the information and not half. Please work to do that.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Chipolcati, followed by Frederick Payton.
Not a lot of people can pronounce my name, so thank you. I'm a parent of 2 kids that are in Clay County, and I also want to talk about book reviews. Last year, I became concerned with the sort of books that are in school libraries because it was starting to become public that there were quite a few books under review. And the foremost question was what sort of books are in school libraries. So I started volunteering on the book review committee since last year. And to my pleasant surprise, these books were very well written. And I reviewed these books in details because I've got a whole bunch of notes for all of the books that I reviewed. And they were so well written that, in fact, I bought them for my kids. And then to find out that they were not put back on the shelves, even though the committee had approved them, is disheartening and infuriating. It feels like my time was wasted for nothing. It feels disrespectful. It feels my rights as a parent were trampled on. My children's First Amendment rights were trampled on and violated, religious rights. I mean, it just feels very wrong. And going through the book review process in good faith and then realizing that it's just a farce is unacceptable because they've been through a whole process. Then, just recently, I found out that there's a form for parents online to help them guide their children. So each parent can fill out the form and specify which books their kid can or cannot check out. So why is this not being publicized? I didn't even know it until this year. And why are the whims and hang-ups of 2 or 3 individuals dictating what books my kids should access in libraries? Why are we not trusting the teachers and media specialists to do their jobs? Why are we pushing needless, tedious tasks on them and they're already overworked? I see what they do. They're fabulous teachers. I love my kids' teachers. And they need to concentrate on giving my kids an education rather than having to go through the library that they have and weed out books that are not really necessary to be taken out. And I want my kids to be well read. I want them to have their own opinions, their own thoughts. And my kids are capable of thinking logically, asking questions, and making up their own minds. And it's okay to have different perspectives. I'm probably not going to like what they think, but it's their individual perspective. And at the end of the day, I am not going to let my kids suffer if there is a book on that banned list, I am going to make damn sure, and pardon my French, that I'm going to buy it for them. But I implore you that not everybody is in that state. So please, thank you.
All right, next we have Frederick Payton, followed by Constance Higginbotham.
My name is Frederick Payton. Thank you for permitting me to speak. I'm a resident of Orange Park. I am a proud Black American who deeply values education and my history. Our country's well-being is inextricably tied to our freedom of thought, expression, and education. My father had a 4th grade education and my mother achieved only the 6th grade. I am a registered nurse with a master's in social work. I am also do who I am based on my experiential learning and my scholastic achievement. I am offended by Florida's government's bigoted and hate-provoking and politically motivated cultural wars. My mother had to fight to get me in an all-white school when I was a student. I counsel teenagers who struggle with their identity and cultural issues as they mature and negotiate through their landscapes. I beg them to open their minds and be the best they can be and inspire their creativity, sense of community, and achievement. I believe in their freedom of thought and speech when it does not infringe on the legitimate right of others. We have struggled and fought wars to protect our rights related to the freedom of thought and expression to include our combined cultural histories. I denounce the legislative cultural tyranny reflected in the banning of books and their strategic chauvinistic censorship of education. I reject the hijacking of our college institutions and their imposition with the restrictions on our learning environments, with your demand for parochial education that interferes with our open transactions and the sharing of ideas. I hold suspect the undermining of our public education institutions by charter schools who do not share the same standards. Okay? Our students deserve a wholesome educational experience that is inclusive, truthful, accurate, and devoid of discrimination. We are responsible for providing the elements necessary for the essential self-awareness, mental agility, and critical thinking skills. Their development is of essential life skills and related attitudes serves to foster a more advanced, productive, and healthier community. Education should not be the only learning the facts, but more importantly, training the mind to think. Obstacles are what you see when you take your eyes off the goal. Education can foster confidence. Confidence can inspire hope. Hope can nurture peace. It provides an ability to understand the human rights, social rights, duties, and responsibilities toward our country. It can provide equity. Education is the hope and soul of our society as it passes from one generation to the next. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Constance Higginbotham, followed by Helena Cormier.
Good evening. I'm Constance Higginbotham. My address is on the card. I was a National Board Certified teacher and employed by the Clay County School District from 1991 to 2008. I am the founder of Math Field Day, and I was the first full-time release president for the Clay County Education Association. I'm currently the founding president of the Clay County Education Retired, and this is not my natural hair color. Thank you for the Read Across America proclamation this evening, and for keeping in that spirit, I would like to address the board regarding Senate Bill 202 and House Bill 1. I do not like Senate Bill 202 or House Bill 1, and that's the truth. They are not good for public schools when everyone plays by different rules. Standards and testing and facilities too, certification, transportation, just to name a few. I do not like them, I declare. I do not think them very fair. Not in large print, not with a mint, not square or round, not in my town. I do not like them, I declare. I do not like them anywhere. I would like to say, let's level the playing field. These books represent two things. The first, it's a dictionary from my classroom when I was in the classroom, which you don't see very often, but it represents the state laws for public schools. This book is a math book from 1929, and it represents the rules and the Florida law for private schools. My church bulletin represents the laws for homeschool. And you must admit, there is a difference. Let's talk funding. The authors of the bills in both the House and the Senate say this legislation will not impact funding for public schools. I beg to differ. We currently have 42,000 students in Clay County schools. If 1%, that's 420 students, take advantage of the vouchers the state is offering, this will decrease funding for Clay County schools $3.36 million. If 10% of our students accept these vouchers, that will cost the district $33.6 million. I can do the math, and I don't believe you need a degree to know that this does impact the funding for Clay County schools. Private schools do not have to accept children with disabilities, or children who are speakers of other languages, or those with gentrification or discipline issues. Private schools can raise the cost of their tuition and prohibit low-income students from attending. And after they've been accepted into the private school dismisses them, turns them out. The private school keeps the money, and the student returns to public school. The funding stays with the private school. I'm here to ask you and the members of the community to reach out to their state legislators and oppose Senate Bill 202 and House Bill 1. Neither is good for students or our schools. If these bills pass, the legislature will defund and destroy public schools. Private schools receiving these funds are not required to have standards, any accountability, and very little oversight. Public schools will no longer be public good, and private schools will become state-sanctioned, state-funded, segregated schools. Thank you.
Next, we have Helena Cormier, followed by Jeffrey Dove.
Hello, my name is Helena Cormier. My address is on file. I'm going to start real quick with just a quick prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you so much for this day. I thank you so much for all the things that we're allowed to do. Dear Lord, I just thank you so much for who you are and who we are through Christ. Dear Lord, I pray that you would just be with us as parents as we try to advocate for our kids. I pray you just give us the strength when the battle may be strong and hard and what's overwhelming. Dear Lord, I pray that you would just be with our school board, our teachers, our staff, our principals, the ones that are in charge of our schools and of our kids. Dear Lord, I pray that you would just let your will be done. I just thank you so much for who you are and who I am through Christ. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. We started this meeting with a prayer, and we started this meeting with a pledge. And throughout my whole entire life, I've said the pledge, and by the grace of God, I have a relationship with the Lord. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's my problem. I've reached out to y'all numerous times. I have an issue with my son, and there's a case at the state's attorney's office. My son was a victim, and my son has claimed over and over again that this was initiation and hazing with the Clay High School and with the Clay High wrestling conditioning students, not the team, because it wasn't formed yet when this happened. If you look up Jeremiah 29:11-13, if you ever see my business card, it's a memory verse on my business card. There's a lot of history in that one. Just take the time to read it. I still need help because this is not resolved. I feel that if our school, if the superintendent would have taken maybe the stance that New Mexico State College did for their basketball team when they had reports of initiation hazing, maybe some of this would have been stopped. I have filed a complaint with the FDLE, and my response from them was contact your local police department or sheriff's office. Unfortunately, the sheriff's office does not have jurisdiction of this case. I've also, in there, it was reported to contact the Clay County School Board. It's very hard for me to come here and to say, let me ask y'all to handle this case when it's already been in your hands. The other one is the Attorney General. Don't have quite their contact, but I'll do what I have to do. This is my county. I have lived here for 22 years. We have raised our 7 children in this school district. This school is my heart, the community, the volunteering, everything I do. This is who I am. But I'm telling you, this is my son. And take a lesson from the spelling bee, eradicate. Can I have a definition? Eradicate. Can we see initiation and hazings involved in our sports eradicated? Maybe if we take a stand and we change our policies, maybe that can happen. Everybody that's sitting on this school board and our police officers know my case involves a tool that was left at the school with a hacksaw. When I go back into the school and I still see tools, screwdrivers, sitting in a way that a student can still have access to this, it breaks my heart. Yes, I'm emotionally involved because this is my child. But I have a problem, and it has not been stopped. It's been addressed, but it hasn't been eradicated. I'm not going away, and I need y'all's help.
Next, we have Jeffrey Dove, followed by Bruce Friedman.
Bruce is following me tonight? I was going to let him have my 3 minutes. Reverend Dove, you all have my address. I have brought a beautiful guest with me. Introduce yourself, love.
Hello, my name's Catalea Diaz.
I met her at a meeting that we had at my church with parents and teachers about this issue. The last time I spoke, I said, this could not be America. I was tripping. And I'm not making this up. I walked out the door. A young white gentleman is on the phone. He turns around, he sees me, and all can come out of his mouth is nigger this and nigger that. And he said, oh no, my parents are in the meeting. Let me talk about the policy. That's what I want to talk about. I agree with the new policy change. So everybody know, I've read it over and over. There's things in the policy I do not like, but it is what it is. It's the best way to get the books back on the shelf. The other issue I have with Mr. Daly is, Mr. Browski, they're taking too long to read those books. That's issue. I don't care about and reading the books and put them back on the shelf is not predicated upon this policy. Read the books and put them back on the shelf. That's what I'm asking. The other ask is there's supposed to be this big three, Mr. Daly, I think, librarian, that are going to look at the challenges. I wish, Mr. Browski, that out of that three, that one can be an African American. It should not be, and I don't know if the lawyer wrote it this way or helped write it this way, it shouldn't be by position. It should be maybe by appointee of the superintendent. And then you got another committee, after that committee of 5, I believe, has to be African Americans on the committee. It's only fair. It's only right. And let me say this. I was eating, trying to get me something to eat, because I'm a little greedy. And I was sitting at the cafe, Mr. Browski, and I was sitting there minding my own business, and Mr. Freeman and the Moms of Liberty came up, and I sat them down, and I said, let's talk. Awesome conversation. Because in reality, we have more in common than we do apart. And so what we're suggesting is that we meet. We're going to meet. The Moms of Liberty, myself, teachers and students, we're going to meet and we're going to build bridges and not walls. God bless you.
Next, we have Bruce Friedman, followed by B.A. Jackson, M.D.
Good evening, all. Bruce Friedman, Middleburg address on file. A few quick thoughts regarding some of the prior comments. We all pledged allegiance to the flag. We pledged allegiance to a republic. This is not a democracy. That's one. Someone had issues with a book, by the way, that I didn't challenge, called Unravel Me by Tahera Mafi. I memorized it. I read it, cover to cover. Page 17, Juliet sleeps with Adam. Page 398, Juliet casually sleeps with Adam's brother. It's not pornographic, doesn't violate Statute 847, violates good parenting, and it's sloppy. That's why I'm defending the challenge made by others and requesting an appeal. There is yet another joyous book. You want to know why we don't trust the experts? Americana by a name I won't even try to pronounce. There's fingering on page 260. There's sex with children on page 175. There's something being licked I won't discuss. There's a semen sandwich. There's honey being licked. There's sucking and the F word. That's why we don't trust your experts. 62 challenges are being submitted tonight, in addition to the 289 that are now on the list. There's still 16 missing. We'll revisit that another time. You do what you do with regards to policy and procedure and statute and law, but ultimately, my goal is to protect the innocence of children. And if you want to call it a book ban, ask yourself why you can't find a Hustler magazine in a school library. It hasn't been banned. It's inappropriate. It doesn't belong there. Neither does Americana. Neither do some of these books. Many of them, they just need to get pushed up to a different level. Maybe they're in elementary and they should move on to junior high and so forth. That's for this team of geniuses to decide. I'm done.
Next, we have B.A. Jackson, M.D., followed by Judith Chappell.
Hi, I'm B.A. Jackson, M.D., retired, and I'm new to Clay County, coming up from the south of the state. I was horrified when I found...
Excuse me, Miss Jackson.
Yes.
Chief, could you please take that in the hallway so we can hear her? Thank you. That's being very disruptive.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was horrified when I found that books were being challenged and taken off shelves in Clay County. I thought this was going to be a great change for me. When I was practicing, I practiced in Massachusetts. I am a Floridian. And I had a 9-year-old boy come up to me and say, I don't like reading. And another boy told me he was going, their family that summer was going to drive to Europe. I don't know why he didn't realize there was an ocean there. That provoked me to go to my public librarian and start a book club. And I did that for 4 years until I left that area and came back home. But reading is very, very important to me, and have access to books that children want to read. That's important. My younger brother, in first grade, had the book Alice, Jerry, Jip, Come Alice, Come Alice, Come. And he said to me, why do they say Come Alice, Come? They told him one time. And he was not a good reader in first grade. In second grade, he was the top reader in his grade level. That's because I got him a subscription to Car and Driver, or Car and Track, a couple magazines that were automotive. He is now an electrical engineer, PhD. Okay. But that, ooh, time is flying. This is one of the books that has been challenged. I read this book before coming in. It is a beautiful book. There's no reason why this book should be challenged. No reason. You guys got to get it together and help the schools get their libraries straight, get books back on the shelves that need to be on the shelves. This is one, all because you matter.
And our final speaker for tonight is Judith Chappell.
Hi, good evening, and I'm Judith Chappell, and my address is on file. I'm not going to talk about book challenges. I am actually here to talk about really education, and very selfishly, I do understand that all resources and all businesses are stretched to the max. I understand that teachers stretch to the max, as well as all of the assistance that teachers need. I just want to read a little bit of an exchange that I had. I'm really interested in getting back to basics on everything, especially education. Just a little exchange I had with one of my granddaughter's teachers. And it started with, I understand that tutoring is being offered for grade improvements for students, and I am wanting to sign up. I've been waiting for the sign-up sheet for Michaela to attend sessions for all courses provided, especially math, as long as Michaela is not making straight A's. If there's any additional help available, I would like her to attend. The reply was, she does not qualify. She has a 3 at the mid-year FAST and is expected to maintain a 3 on the FAST test. My reply was, is 3 the highest score available? She says, no, 3 is on grade level. The test goes from 1 to 5. Wow. So, and as I've said many times, to me, it's 5 is where the grade can get to. Then 5, I'm old, I'm 65 years old. If 5 is where she can go, then 5 is where I want her to go, not 3. And so it's majoring in minor. Sometimes I think all of the effort that we're spinning our wheels on with books and challenges and all of that, we're spinning our wheels in majoring in minor. I really want us focusing back on education. And I'm wanting 5, not 3.
All right, that concludes our presentations from the audience for tonight. We will be moving on to the adoption of our consent agenda. We have proclamations that are worth noting. Tonight we have proclamation number 23-09 for Clay County Agricultural Fair on March 30th, beginning on March 30th and lasting through April 9th of 2023. Fair Day is on March 31st. Proclamation number 23-10 to establish School Social Work Week as March 5th through the 11th of 2023. And Proclamation number 23-16 to establish Read Across America Day as March 2nd, 2023.
Woo! Sorry. I'm wearing Dr. Seuss tonight for a
I
reason.
noticed that.
Okay.
I noticed that, Miss Bola, and I'm just sorry I didn't wear my Golden Books shirt.
There you go.
To match. All right, and then we also have had 2 items from the consent agenda pulled to discussion. One is the approval to advertise and notice a public hearing to approve amendment to School Board Procedures Manual for Library Media Services and Procedures Manual for Instructional Resources, and the proposed allocations as well were pulled to discussion. So, do I have a motion for the adoption of the consent agenda?
I move approval.
I have a motion from Ms. Bola. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second from Ms. Hanson. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Our computers are all asleep, so give us a chance to vote real quick. All right. Next, we have the update from CCEA. Ms. Kidwell?
Good evening. I'm Vicki Kidwell, President of the Clay County Education Association. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share the voices of educators. Books are tools for understanding complex issues. Limiting young people's access to books does not protect them from life's complex and challenging issues. American Library Association. Like most educators, I love reading. As a child, I could spend hours curled up with a great book. My mom used to call it burying myself in them. I would read all summer, took a book with me everywhere, even during school. I even had one in the lunchroom. I was that kid. I loved reading because I loved immersing myself in the experiences of the characters in the pages of a great book. And when I think back on all those hours spent reading, I'm very grateful because I know that those experiences helped shape me into what I am today. In 1990, Dr. Rudin Bishop, a decorated scholar, college professor, and author, published an essay about the importance of providing young readers with diverse books. Dr. Bishop coined the phrase windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors. Mirrors describes how readers can feel empowered, connected, and valued when they see themselves represented in books. But equally important is when books are windows. These windows allow readers to see and feel and experience and appreciate the perspective of those that are different from their own. When books don't serve as mirrors to children, Dr. Bishop says, children learn a powerful lesson about how they are devalued in society. Knowing the importance of literature in my own life, I have read selections from the Clay County book list that is challenged and removed every chance that I get, which isn't a lot. I looked at the titles and the authors, and it reveals that many challenges are being used to remove effectively erasing diverse experiences of history, or silence representative voices, and ban diverse authors from our media centers. The Clay County Reading Alliance has donated a bunch of books from the challenged book list, and this was one of them, and I read it. It's called Selway. I'm going to read you the back of it. I've read this book in its entirety. I had time. It's not too long. It's a picture book. Selway has skin the color of midnight. She is darker than everyone in her family. She is darker than anyone in her school. Selway just wants to be beautiful and bright like her mother and sister. Then a magical journey in the night sky opens her eyes and changes everything. In this stunning debut picture book, Academy Award-winning actress Lupita Nyong'o creates a whimsical and heartwarming story that will inspire children to see their own unique beauty. challenged book. What is going on? Tonight, the Clay County School Board will propose changes to the media challenge policy we have had since the beginning of the school year. Establishing a challenge policy is mandated by Florida statute to ensure that books held in school circulation are not in violation of Florida Obscenity Statute 847. The current policy, in an abundance of caution, removes every challenged book pending review. In Clay, our current policy is being exploited by a couple of extreme individuals clogging the system with hundreds of meritless challenges. The current backlog of challenges will take years to process at 6 a month. Meanwhile, these books are locked away in book limbo. I'm Catholic. Inaccessible for all of those years, essentially banned. Books that do not violate the 847 statute should not be removed at the whim of one or two individuals. Not only is that censorship, but it removes the right of every parent to choose for their own child. The policy needs to change. The proposed revisions are a step in the right direction. The proposals include the ability to reject hundreds of unwarranted challenges. Hooray. Provide an avenue to filter the hundreds of backlog books. Hooray. Parental rights and responsibilities are essential freedoms in America, and they are critical to student success. But freedom can't be taken for granted. Parents who want to preserve the right to choose for their own child must be willing to stand up and speak up. And I thank you that so many have today. Every parent should have the right to be in control of their own students' library access in Clay County schools. One person should not choose for all parents. That is the opposite of parental rights. Clay County Schools has a thorough and empowering solution for any parent who wishes to restrict their own students' book choices. Our procedures even allow for parents to monitor and be notified when their child checks out a book from the library. With a student population of 42,000, a mere 3 parents have chosen to restrict access to their students' books choices. And that's not surprising. In a recent poll, 75% of voters said preventing book banning was important to them. The free flow of ideas and expressions is an American hallmark. We have to protect it. Do parents want to allow a few extreme individuals to censor the reading choices of every Clay County student? Should students have access to books which are mirrors? Mirrors which allow every student in Clay County schools to see themselves, their struggles and dreams reflected and affirmed in the pages of their selected reading material? Should students have access to books that are windows that can help young learners understand the experiences and perspectives and struggles and resilience of our diverse community, state, country, and world? A policy that allows one activist to remove any book that doesn't align with a narrow view is a policy that removes the rights of every parent to choose for their student. Books that do not violate the 847 obscenity statute should not be removed from our media centers. I hope our parents want to preserve their right to choose for their own student. I support the proposed changes to the Clay County Challenge policy. They are a step toward rejecting censorship of diversity and these frivolous challenges. They are a step toward restoring the rights of thousands of Clay County's parents to choose for their own student. We are a diverse community. Every student deserves to feel represented in the pages of their media center offerings. Let each parent choose.
Next is our CESPA update. Do we have an update from CESPA tonight? No? Okay. All right. Superintendent, I'll turn it over to you.
You know, I think the superintendent's update is in a weird spot in the agenda every time because it's like I listen to public comment and then it's like, okay, superintendent, you're on. I would just say this. I am enjoying the fact that so many of you have stayed, right? Because now the policy's on the discussion agenda, so you got no choice but to listen to this update. And I thought that was beneficial. I jest, okay? And I'll move quickly through this. I want to talk a little bit about Schools of the Month, Read Across America Day, the State of the Schools Address, our district competitions, a new scholarship. That's kind of exciting that we have, as well as upcoming events. Okay, Schools of the Month for February were Keystone Heights and S. Brian Jennings. Of course, they win a huge trophy. It's big pencil, actually, and a lunch as well as other stuff. So fantastic for them. This will be our last month. Want to thank Community First for their sponsorship. They do a great job of supporting education in Clay County. The theme is well kept and welcoming. So don't forget to go on there and vote for your school. Read Across America Day. Let me tell you, what a great day to celebrate literacy. Anybody that knows me knows that I talk quite often about literacy, and not in the context of tonight's meeting, but in literacy of young children having the ability to read and moving from reading to learning to read, which is magical in a young person's life. That's I was out at OPE this morning for Read Across America Day. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'm telling you, what a great group of kids. They were fascinated. Read a book, Ivan, who was an animal, a gorilla that was in the mall of all places. One of my kids were riveted to it. It was a fantastic day, a celebration of literacy in the true sense of the word. State of the Schools Address, a fantastic event. One thing that I've learned in recent years is you got to tell your story, or other people tell your story for you. And in public education in Clay County District Schools, we've got a great story to tell. And I was very proud to tell that story on Tuesday night, the State of Schools Address. Our elected officials were there, as well as business partners, our teachers, administrators, and everybody that supports our district school system. A fantastic event. I just thank everybody that attended, and I thank everyone for their support of Clay County District Schools. What we do in Clay County District Schools is important. It's important. Public education is important. So it was fantastic, a great event. District competitions, the science fair, you saw the spelling bee, but you missed me at the elementary track meet. I pulled a hammy while I tried to, no, I didn't actually participate, but it was a great event. Great to see students actually exercising. That's another little piece to the puzzle is, all of the academia is great, but certainly physical activity, athletics, important for the health of students. This is a fantastic new thing, actually, where I have the ability to give a scholarship out. I'm going to give a scholarship, an $8,000 scholarship, 2-year scholarship to a current senior, as well as an incoming kindergartner. This is a partnership with Florida Prepaid Scholarships. If you go to the website, you'll see that good-looking guy that you see up there in that photo up there. There's a link there. Students, parents, if you're interested, click on that link. You can find out more information on how to participate. We're going to, the ending of this has to be submitted by March 31st. We look to announce the winners and bring them to the board meeting in May. So that's kind of the timeline of that. So very thankful to have the ability to do that and make the educational dreams of a couple people come true in Clay County schools. Upcoming events. The all-important spring break. Anybody out there thinking spring break? Anybody with their hand? The retired folks are like, every day's spring break. They're not worried about it, right? Every night's Friday night. But for us that are in the school system, we're looking forward to spring break. And then there's a planning day on the 20th, and students return on the 21st. Okay, some upcoming events. This is Women's History Month, Music in the Schools Month, Arts Education Month, National Nutrition Month, as well as School Social Week, Worker Week is right now. We're coming up right now. Clay Education Foundation's Tools for Schools, March 20th and the 23rd, and Fair Day. We're one of the only counties that celebrates the opening of the agricultural fair with a day off from school. So a big supporter of the fair and all they do. March 31st is the end of that. And that's all I have tonight. Skipper, that was quick.
I believe that was record time, Mr. Broski.
Wow, there was a lot
appreciate
of
that.
speakers tonight.
We'll document that.
All right. The next item on our agenda is D1, Human Resources Special Action A. Give me just a moment here. All right.
I move approval.
I have a motion from Ms. Bola. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ms. Clark. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item D2, Human Resources Special Action B. Do I have a motion?
So move. Oh, go ahead. So move.
I have a motion from Ms. Hanson. Do I have a second?
Second.
From Ms. Bola. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Wait just a moment for that to populate. And then Human Resources Special Action C. Do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's a placeholder.
I have no special action C tonight. All right, item C8, approval to advertise and notice of public hearing to approve amendment to School Board Procedures Manual for Library Media Services and Procedures Manual for Instructional Resources, pulled to discussion by Ms. Hanson. So I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Hanson.
Shouldn't we need to have a
Oh, I'm sorry, we
motion?
do need a motion and a second before discussion.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I have a motion from Ms. Bola. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ms. Skipper. All right, on to discussion. Go ahead, Ms. Hanson.
I requested to have this pulled to the discussion. If you were to pick up a school law book, you would see riddled throughout the district school board section our right to discuss and talk about policy. I pulled or asked for this to be pulled to discussion because our board was unable to talk about the policy revisions that we are or going to advertise. So I'm a new school board member, and I'm going to try to get myself together here because this is important to me. We all come here with different values, experiences, and beliefs. We would all like to be perceived as competent, but there are other people, and I'm talking other people, that must be considered when we make decisions. Because everything we do has an impact that's bigger than us, much larger than us. We need, as a board, we're elected officials, to talk about what's important to our educational community, for our constituents, for parents, and for anybody else who has an interest. I started reading books last March, and I can tell you, there were books that needed to be gone. They broke statutes, and they were some of the dirtiest books. I don't think I've ever read any dirty books, but they were bad. So bad that I was embarrassed to read them. And the county got those removed. But when we cross a line where we are trying to determine that one parent's view may be more important than another, is why I wanted to talk about it. If we talk about parental rights, we talk about parental rights. And it's not parental rights for one person or one family of beliefs. It's parental rights for all families and parents. So on that note, I wanted to bring this for discussion to see what my fellow board members wanted to talk about. And in the advance, in the future, I would love to be able to have these policy changes ahead of time so that we can talk about them at a workshop and you can see where we stand. Yeah.
Okay. So was there anything specifically that you wanted altered in the policy?
Well, Mr. Bickner, I talked to him because I really don't know what can be done and can't be done because I'm so new to the system. But we had a lot of discussion this week about the challenge form. At least I had a lot of discussion about the challenge form. One thing I wanted to do was make sure that we had specific rubrics or guidelines for what could be challenged. And what I mean by that is maybe such like a checklist to help people understand the type of material that could be challenged. In addition, I wanted to talk about, I'll just tell you the two things.
Yep.
Forming a vision committee or a working committee of a cross-section of Clay County. And when I mean a cross-section, I mean a cross-section. We will never come up with something perfect. We will never come up with something that makes everybody happy. But we need to come up with something better.
And when you say a cross-section for the committee, are you talking about the
Would
district?
be, yes, and
the curriculum reconsideration, the
Yes.
challenge committee?
yes.
Okay. So did anybody else have anything they wanted to add? Was there anything further you wanted to? I guess what I'm questioning is what language specifically would you want us to change in the policy? Or are you comfortable voting on the policy as it stands?
Mr. Daly, can you help me with this part? We've had a lot of conversation this week.
So if you want, in terms of language to guide the how books are screened in the policy amendment, so as the policy currently exists, there is no filtering process so that you get two types of things going on. Number one, you get books that are obvious, egregious violations of Florida statute that then nonetheless have to go through the process of committee, and that eats up resources and takes time. Conversely, you get books that are obviously not a violation of any standard or anything inappropriate, a challenge, let's say, against an encyclopedia, or if one were to challenge Dr. Seuss, right? Isn't it his birthday or something? So something like that would be obviously would not violate a statute. And so the policy amendment would allow us to filter those things out and focus then instead, because our resources for the committee are extremely limited, just on those things. And those would be things that fall into sort of pushing the envelope in terms of the statutory language that already exists. And so the committees that we've had reviewing these things use statutory language primarily from Chapter 847 of Florida statute that specifically details what is allowed and what is not, and then they have conversations around those things in terms of its appropriate placement for elementary, junior high, or high school. So we have language around that already. If you're seeking some additional guidelines, we've had conversations about bringing in a focus group of media specialists and some community members to sort of maybe refine those things that fall more into those grayer areas. And I think that's quite easily done without having to add to the policy language. That could be done procedurally. All policies have procedural elements, and that could be done.
So we could find a diverse group of people possibly to decide what our community standards may be for the books that aren't obvious.
Yes, ma'am. I already have a group that I've reached out to in terms of doing that exact thing. So that type of thing's already in motion because we try to stay committed to having this conversation ongoing. At the same time, we've got to refine the policy for the reasons that have been articulated here already. And number one, that right now, under the current policy as it exists, a single individual can sort of hijack the ability of other individuals in the community to decide what is accessible to their child while it is removed from the shelves into the review process. The review process itself, under ideal circumstances, would be lengthy because we're talking about reading books and being reflective and thoughtful and having conversations. You then have to coordinate the schedules of those people who are on those committees. But what I've encountered is that we lack volunteers. Everyone I've talked to, almost without exception, has told me, I'll bring forward volunteers for you. We've been talking about this for 9 months. We have had 30 parents reach out, or community members, and say, hey, we'd like to be involved. 15 of those followed up by doing a brief training. 11 of those actually committed to read books, and those 11 parents have been serving on all of the committees. And many of them have told me they are near the end. They're exhausted from doing that. And so that clogs it up and creates a lag time that makes this indefinite. If the policy is amendment, a large and significant portion of these books would be returned to the shelves immediately. It would prevent future challenges on things that lack merit and don't violate statutes, and would facilitate a more efficient process for us relative to this issue.
Okay. Let me finish with Ms. Hanson, and then we'll move. So, Ms. Hanson, given that response, are you comfortable with the language, or is there something you wanted to amend?
I'm comfortable with that, but I really believe that we need to figure out what our community, the limits. It's like having a rubric. Maybe in high school, this is okay, maybe in junior high. There has never been any discussion on, when it comes to law, it's clear. It's very clear. It's like, A through M, and you can tell. My concern is the rest. And if, Mr. Daly, you're saying the way the policy as it's rewritten will help funnel out meritless challenges and get the books on the shelf, then that's a great thing.
So if I'm understanding, what you're wanting to create is a rubric that the district review
Guidelines.
committee would use when they're evaluating books that are not clearly
Or for
violations,
someone-
but they're questionable.
Or the same thing for someone who wants to challenge a book. They could look at it.
So
and see-
I would caution you there, because I think that the state law, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the state law is pretty clear that a citizen has a right to challenge any book. Now, whether or not that challenge holds merit when reviewed by the district staff, that's where the criteria comes in.
Yeah.
But I think anybody can write a challenge on anything if they want to.
Yeah.
That does not mean that the book, according to this policy, would be removed, because if it doesn't violate the law, then it's immediately, the challenge is denied. But they still have the right to submit the challenge. Does that make sense? So I wouldn't limit somebody's right to submit a challenge. But we can certainly look at criteria that we want to use to evaluate whether a book is appropriate for high school, junior high, or elementary school. And I would imagine, just as Mr. Daly said, there probably are some procedures in place already that we don't have in policy. But personally, I'd like to hear from our Library Media Center specialists what their guidelines are that they're currently using. We have phenomenal experts in place that I think could really weigh in on this issue. I'd hate to try to come up with all of that tonight.
No, I don't want to. I just want to, I guess, I just feel like sometimes we need to listen to the community as well.
Oh, I agree. And I think that's the other thing I wanted to ask you about. So when we talk about in the policy, the makeup of who is on the district curriculum council is not something that we're changing tonight. That's something that existed from when the policy was first approved. And what it spells out is that it will have no fewer than 5 people, but it's not listed on there that we would have a community member. That would be an easy add. So if we wanted to add tonight to that list, we could just add "and a community member."
Madam Chair, may I speak?
Yes, sir.
If you look at the way that all of this drafting in red and black, that's all stuff that I've done in the past 4 weeks. There was a place on the previous policy, the way that it's written in the manual, it included community member.
Okay.
I was specifically asked to remove community member, and you'll see it's a line out. It's a simple thing to change it back if that's what we want to do. But there was nothing in statute that required a community member. And so they said, stick to what the statute says. And so that's what I was directed to do, is to remove what's not in statute. So that's why a community member was not there. But it is stricken through.
I don't see it stricken through.
I'll find it for you.
Is that, I'm looking at the challenged materials procedure. Is it under the Library Media Services Manual maybe instead?
I'm gonna find it.
Yes, Mr.
I
Superintendent.
think one of the things that happened was originally, we couldn't get enough parents to serve on the committee, so trying to get a parent and a community member.
Well, I think according to the policy, you need 5 of that selection. So if you couldn't get, well, a parent's mandatory, but if you couldn't get one of the other options, then a community member would be an option if we had it in there. It wouldn't be that you. Not mandatory. Correct. Correct. Yeah. Would that be?
Yeah, as long as we get feedback.
Mhm. And it's a rotating position, so it wouldn't be the same community member every time. And, you know, like Mr. Daly said, there's lots of people who are willing, but then when they see what's required, you know, as far as the training, and then when you're on the review committee, you must read the book. That's a requirement before you make a decision, so that depending on the length of the book, it could be time consuming. So,
Madam Chair?
yes.
May I?
Yes, Mr. Daly.
Thank you. So just to be clear, in the policy revision proposal, you have an extra layer in the sense that there's a committee, including myself, at the district that initially screens
Right.
for those that appear to violate the statute. Those are the ones that are maybe in that nebulous area that would go to committee, right? The ones that obviously violate the statute would come out.
Right.
Then those that are left as the remainder would go to the committee. So we would reduce the flow of books to the committee. And I don't see this as being as significant a burden on the rotation of the parent volunteers. And that's one of the things I'm trying to reduce, because right now, as it currently exists, I anticipate running out of volunteers and then potentially being unable and unequipped to deal with this issue. In this proposal, we would reduce that so much that I think it would be manageable, even given the current status of volunteers.
I guess just in closing, I don't think I articulate as well as I wanted to, but I know the back half of the law talks about, and Mr. Bickner mentioned this at the workshop, age appropriate, a maturity level, student need. Am I missing something, Mr. Bickner?
It's all in 10.6.28.
Yeah.
And it does set it out, and it's set out in here, and I can read it to you directly.
I just feel like maybe they left that so ambiguous so that counties could determine what we mean by that back half of the law.
It says, based on its own review, recommend immediate and permanent removal of materials that violate 847.012 Florida statute or other pertinent Florida statute, or are determined to contain content that is obviously pornographic or inappropriate for the grade level or age group for which the material is used. And the way that I set this up, as Mr. Daly said, was at the very beginning with the oversight committee. You've got the chief academic officer, the district library media specialist, and the supervisor of instructional resources doing an initial evaluation. And if they see that it violates that, according to statute, it's removed immediately. And then if he sees, or if they then see, it also is, I've used the word frivolous. I understand somebody took offense to that and wanted meritless. I don't have a problem with changing a word. But it also said if you see something and it, A, doesn't meet the requirements of 10.6.28, which specifically sets out those parameters which you use, which statutes it would violate, and which things it would meet. If it doesn't do that, and if it doesn't do the other things that you're required to do, then it also kicks it back and sends it back to the beginning and sends it back to the originator. Only what's left, only the gray area.
Yeah.
That's all that goes to the committee. And that's the way it was written, so that we could get all this stuff out and get it back to where it came from, kick out the challenges that are just plain wrong, and send it back where they came from, and then whatever's left we look at. And then what I did was I split library and instruction, because library and instruction are defined differently in 10.6.28. And the reason I did that was Because part of what we did was to say, okay, if we're going to do instructional material, but then it was, when it was originally done, it was done for everything. We're going to take it all off the shelf. And we're going to put it away, and nobody can touch it, nobody can get to it. To me, that's a prior restraint, which is unconstitutional. And it's been challenged and is being challenged in Missouri right now for that very reason. What I suggested, and Mr. Brodsky agreed and Mr. Daly agreed, and so did Dr. Johnson and Ms. Gannon, is that for instructional, we take those out and take them away because we have a forced audience here. You're going to be required to, because it's instructional material and it's been agreed upon. And so that sits idle. But all the other stuff that's simply media, we take it off the shelves, but it's still available. But the way that it's structured, contrary to what a couple of people have said in their comments tonight, the way that it's structured is says, okay, it's all still here, you can all still check it out, but your mama's got to say it's okay. Your daddy's got to say it's okay. Somebody's going to have to send in something that says, go ahead and check this book out. In my day, it was Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer, Lady Chatterley's Lover, and Sons and Lovers, and a couple of other, Now it's something completely different. So I would have had to have gotten my mother to consent to those, or my father. Well, now we would have this group of books. It's behind the counter, so to speak, and they would have to have consent. If you want it done a different way, I can always do it a different way.
No, the consent part was very well written for
I'm
parents, yeah.
My whole goal in doing all of this is to make it comply with this statute, which is very poorly written. House Bill 1467 is a wreck. It doubles back on itself, it chases its tail, and it sends you to 5 or 6 different statutes rather than just give you language you can use. It's almost impossible to get through. So there are a couple of things in here, and I think I pointed one out to you that I wanted to change, where I changed it in the instructional, but didn't change it in the library. And so when you read part of it, in one of them, it's confusing, and I agree with that. I read them all again last night, and I'm thinking,
Thank you.
I'm an idiot. Why would I do this here and not do it there? I intended to, but in all the writes and rewrites and rewrites and rewrites, and there have been several, sometimes things get lost in the shuffle in my head.
Yeah.
It's ugly in there. So, and I pointed one out to you that I think is particularly important that I think we need to change, and it's in the one having to do with the library. And there are a couple of things in that I would make changes to, but they're mostly Scrivener's errors. This one's a Scrivener's error, but it's big enough that it bothers me. And it's on the page where it says, at the beginning of appeals. And that whole paragraph before the numbered paragraph 1 for beginning of the appeal is a confusing, messed up paragraph. When I read it, I can't even understand it. Whoever wrote that, that was me.
Yeah.
Had no clue what they were doing. Sometimes I get tired. And so what I was going to suggest is to allow me to just take that out and to place in its stead, a complaint may appeal any final decisions to the superintendent's designee, which is based on the committee's recommendation, and which final decision is or will be forwarded to the school board for approval. The appeal shall proceed as follows. And then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's easy. But that paragraph that I'm going to replace, I don't know where it came from. I think aliens, but it's unreadable. And so I think that. There was only one other, and that is for those in both of those things, the rejections and the 3 things that the Challenge Oversight Committee would do, I would simply change to A, B, C, and D, because now they're not designated at all. And then when it came for those challenges which only apply to library and media, I would say add in that if it's not handled by paragraph A, or if it is handled by paragraph A, the remainder of those can be used or allowed to be circulated with consent. Yeah. Other than that, I looked and looked and looked, and absent Scrivener's errors, which is a period here or a comma there, which obviously I will change, I couldn't find any other things that were substantive.
Thought we could remove?
So if I'm understanding, what we would strike, if you're looking at the backup online, under Library Media Services Manual,
Right?
It's on page 9.
Paragraph starts, "The complainant may appeal any final decision," and any final decision is underwritten. That whole paragraph, that whole lead-in paragraph is what I would strike
Okay.
and replace with what I just read.
And you would replace it with language that's already here or new language?
Language that is already in the instructional section in the
Okay.
same exact place.
Okay.
And it reads better.
So if you open the instructional manual on your backup, it's letter, which letter, Mr.
You
Bickner?
go to the
A?
appeal, which is the third from the last page, and it says, at the beginning of the appeals, before the numbered paragraphs 1, 2, 3, and 4, it says, "The complainant may appeal any final decision," et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and that's what I just read.
That's not on the instructional manual page. Is that on the
Challenged
challenged materials
Procedure
page? Okay.
Reconsideration Review of Instructional Materials is what it's titled.
And that's, what page did you say?
Third from the last.
Third from the last.
They're not numbered at this point.
They all print at different pages.
Okay, so that would be page 7.
Okay?
And
if
you're
you look-
talking about replacing
The
it-
paragraph right before numbered paragraph 1 is
Okay.
what I would add to. I would put that paragraph, I'll leave
Okay.
it same as it is in this one, but I would just add that paragraph to.
Strike
the-
through the one that exists there and then replace it with this?
Right.
Okay. Is everybody following that? So you know what you're voting on? Okay.
And that would be an amendment to what we have, so it would be.
So Ms. Hanson, would you like to amend, actually, no, who made the original motion?
The only thing that I would need is,
Ms.
your motion would be, move approval, substituting the amended language as set forth in.
Okay. So
in
do you
our
think the
discussion.
cleanest process would be to vote on this one change at a time? Let each board member,
There's only one, yeah,
yeah, okay.
there's only one item. So if you would just, I think you're asking me, would it be better to
Do you,
vote on each one of
do I
these
want to let,
separately?
yeah, should I let each board member weigh in if they want to make changes and then approve it all at once? Or should we go?
That would be the best way. yeah.
Okay, all right. So Ms. Hanson, is that your input that you'd like to change that paragraph? Okay. So then we'll hold off on making a motion for now until we finish with all board member
Sure.
comment. Okay. Ms. Skipper, you had indicated that you wanted to speak.
I just had a question. Is there any law, Mr. Bickner, that states, or anything in the challenge process that states that if a book is challenged, that it can't be, like it has to be completely removed? Is that a law at all? Because there's so many,
It doesn't say that except those things that come under 847.012.
okay, so just stating to the law that
Or
violates
if
the
they're
law.
age inappropriate.
Okay, so like right now
It
with
says
a
those
third
things have to
grader.
be, yes.
Okay.
And that's a separate statute. That's under,
So only if it violates the law is it that you cannot give a permission slip to a parent, right?
No.
That's what I want to,
I'm sorry?
The books that are being, if I'm understanding the policy correctly, the books that would be placed, so to speak, behind the library counter, accessible to children with parental permission, are books that are currently being reconsidered by the committee.
committed. Okay,
Yes.
that's what I wanted to, I want to,
Only those that are.
Right,
are
right, right. Okay.
For the
That's what I
library.
wanted
If
to
they're
confirm.
instructional, we've got people that we are, it's what I would call a captive audience. If we pass instructional materials, those are required. And if they're challenged because of one of the 4 statutes that's set forth in 10628 that they're violating, then those would be taken off the shelves. But they come with the same proviso as library materials in the sense that if Mr. Daly looks at it and or the committee looks at it and says, this doesn't violate anything, it goes back. They're going to rule against it. Or if it fails to set forth that it violates those things and why, it goes back and we send the thing back. It's only the gray area books that would remain out of circulation. Those that are strictly library challenges, as someone said in their public comment, the library challenges are limited. Right now, they're shotgunned. If it has anything to do with, quote, CRT, which means nothing to most people, or race in any form, then it's being challenged. But that's not what the statute says. And so those things, when Mr. Daly would look at it, he would say, this is a frivolous or meritless challenge, and kick it out, put the book back on the shelf, or leave it on the shelf and never take it off. That process would be followed. That's why separated the library from instructional. Going to the library is optional. That's not an assigned task. So that's why I said, leave it alone. To me, a library is sort of a sacred place. It's like a bookstore. It's sacred.
I just wanted to clear that up and make sure.
And I hope I did. If I didn't, I'm sorry I asked.
You did, yeah, you did.
While you have the floor, Ms. Skipper, was there anything that you wanted to comment on, add? Okay, so you're comfortable with what we have? Okay. Ms. Clark?
Obviously, we need to do something because we've clogged up the wheel big time. Mr. Daly, can you tell me, I want to feel confident because there's still some phrases in here that I'm iffy about. Can you share with me whether the Department of Education has approved this amendment to the policy, the wording that we've done?
Has the DOE approved the proposal of this policy? No, we don't typically submit our policy revision drafts to the DOE.
And I just need to make sure, because like Mr. Bickner says, 1467, it can be so convoluted. I want to make sure that we're still sticking to 1467. because
I can
have
tell
that-
you
we have
personally,
that obligation.
it is dead on with 1467 and 10628. You can't ask DOE for an opinion, they won't give you one. That's the reality of it, and I'm not being facetious, I'm telling you the truth. If I sent this to DOE and said, please pass on our policy, they would say, contact your school board attorney. If you call FSBA and say, tell me if this is something we can do legally, they will say, contact your school board attorney. They're not going to give you an answer because they're not going to put their neck on that line. I'm willing to put my neck on that line every day.
Mrs. Clark, if I may, I went over these at the board agenda workshop, but there was a lot of material. I'll review it, just encapsulate it very briefly, is that you have what we've talked about quite a bit in the Chapter 847 that deals with obscenity, very clear language that comes forward and gives us a definition of what is allowable and what is not. That was a 2018 statute that came forward. The rest came forward in 2022. There were 3 different bills. They are separate. They don't impact each other necessarily. All of those deal with classroom instruction. They even give details into terms of under what context some subjects could and could not come into classroom instruction. None of those impact library media materials.
I guess in the corporate world, I'm used to think tanks and a little bit of help. Making sure that when we do an amendment, that I get it. The sad part is, last year it took us so long to write this policy, and now we're just about next week to get some help, I hope, from the legislators. So, we'll probably be starting this all over again. Well, they're going to be looking at some bills that will hopefully help us with all of this. They've got 1069, I think, on the 7th of March, and there's supposed to be some guidelines that will help us through this maze.
Well, I think it's fair. The state legislature meets every year, and every year something changes.
Sure.
So for us to have to update policy, that's our job, and we do it regularly. We don't do it as regularly as we should. So I think if we take it up again, we take it up again.
I can tell you that I look at the legislation that comes through every day, and I think I sent you one last week, and then 45 minutes later, I got the Senate companion bill for the exact same thing. It's the same language. That's why I didn't send it out. But if I see anything that comes across that makes your lives easier or Mr. Daly's lives easier, you'll hear it from me real quick, because it's going to mean more policies. Or it's going to mean policy changes, one.
And, I think tank wise, it's obviously beneficial for the five of us to have discussion about policy. And I think beyond that, if you're looking for some input and guidance from reliable sources, I would look to board members in other counties, what their policies look like, how it's worked for them in their community. FSBA can be a resource. There are other state school board organizations that can be a helpful resource. But yeah, unfortunately, DOE is very slow to give opinions on much of anything. Was there anything else you had, Ms. Clark?
Probably not. Some of the wording or presumption that they are correct. Under challenges, I guess I hate to make any presumption until I've read the book myself. Those are kind of the things that bother me a little bit.
The language
Yeah.
and the policy.
Yeah.
May I address that one particular thing? When I was looking at how to do an appeal, what I looked at was how does an appeal work in the judicial system? And when you have a circuit court that rules on something, and then it's appealed to the appellate court or the First District Court of Appeal, and then onto the Supreme Court, it arrives at that court that the trial judge was correct in his assessment because he heard everything. And so the reason I put that in there is it will go to the appeal level with a presumption of correctness. It's a rebuttable presumption. But I did that because I tried to mirror the way that the District Court of Appeal handles appeals from the circuit court, because it makes logical sense to me. And because the people at that committee that are reading the book, and Mr. Daly and the library media specialist and the instructional people have looked at it, and they have made their determination, and that's what's being appealed to you. And they're the boots on the ground. And just like the circuit court judge that's heard all of the language in the trial is the boots on the ground. And he said, I'm ruling this way based on what I understand the law to be. So it arrives with a presumption that it's correct. And that's why I did what I did there.
All right, for now.
May I say one more thing? I would love for people to call me and talk to me. If you have a question about anything, I would love for you to call and talk to me. And it would make my life easier, but I think ultimately it would make your lives easier too, because I'll respond, and any issues that had been had, I'd be happy to take up and deal with. My focus has been, because I haven't heard from anyone until last Thursday, to try to make Mr. Daly's life and Dr. Johnson's life and Susie Gannon's lives easier, because they're the ones that are dealing with this torrent of stuff, most of it completely meritless. But they're the ones that, and Mr. Daly and Superintendent Brodsky came and said, how can we make this inside the parameters of the law streamlined? Because if we don't, the wheels are gonna come off the bus. And that's where this all came from. But if you would call and talk to me, if you have questions, I'm there. You can call me at night, except after 9 o'clock and before 4 a.m. Between 9 and 4, I am asleep.
Appreciate that. I think, obviously, we didn't see this wording till last Tuesday, and everybody's plate has been full. So it takes a while to read all of this, of course. So I just assumed we could ask some of these questions here at the meeting. Yep.
I think just past practice, we've always had a workshop with the proposed policy prior to bringing it to a regular meeting. So I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation at all. That's kind of how we've done it. I think it's, to Mr. Bickner's point, our hair's on fire. So I think that there was a rush to get this to the regular meeting and skip the policy revisions for the sake of saving the time of these individuals who have worked countless hours at a very thankless job. Was there anything else from you, Ms. Clark?
No, I mean, obviously, we can't have one person tie up the whole system. it's, the good news is everybody was very passionate. They had a lot of good things to say. So we have to address it somehow.
And, admittedly, I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect policy. So it's a work in progress. And as we put it in place, if there's amendments that we need to make down the road, like we've talked about, we can always bring it back. And again, this is the first advertisement of it. It's not final yet, even after a vote tonight.
Well,
It's final for advertising.
for
but
advertising,
it's not
and
in
once it's
place.
advertised,
Right.
that would be what we would vote on,
Correct.
or then re-advertise again. So
Is that all from you, Ms. Clark? Ms. Bola?
I have two quick things. Number one, when we talk about what the community wants, I get very nervous, incredibly nervous, because the ultimate responsibility of each of these individual children is up to the parent. And the parent makes the ultimate decision for their child. And when I heard a lot of passion tonight regarding that. I heard a lot of passion about just leave the books alone. And one of my second question, that's my first comment, my second question is that we heard a lot about the books that have gone through the process and that they're still not back on the shelves, Mr. Daly? And is there a procedure for returning them to the shelves once they've been through the process? What do we know what the hangup is there?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about under the current policy or if the policy is revised. If the policy is,
Current policy.
it's going to be a very, 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 very long time before those books get read. We have 11 parent volunteers.
Right, but excuse me, there have been books that have gone through the procedure.
They're still in the appellate phase. So there's an appellate phase to that too, which would also be amended by the policy proposal, which would then free those things up.
So the new policy would free them up.
Mrs. Bull, if I may, there's so many books that right now that are tied up in this process that if the process is amended, would immediately go back on the shelves. I could put, at the moment you vote on them, I could have them back on the shelf.
I did not understand when we passed the policy the first time that if a decision is appealed, the book is held off the shelves. That's in our current policy?
They remain off the shelf until the appeal is finalized. But you have a significant portion of these books so just to review, of the books that were there were books that were there that were inappropriate and violated statutes. So
Right.
those that seem to be in that category, we front-loaded.
Right.
But because of the limited number of people we have available to review books, and reviewing each book takes a long time, that those books were front-loaded. So you have other books, several categories around which we have community members present right now who have concerns about those books not being available. Again, we don't have the resources in this unfunded mandate to bring those forward in a timely fashion.
Understood.
Thank you. So with the new policy, Mr. Daly, we would be able to, and I'm going to go back to the word frivolous, because there are a number of frivolous challenges that don't belong. Are we going to be able to work more quickly through those frivolous challenges and return those books to the shelves?
Those books have already been categorized and are waiting to go back on the shelf the moment that the board votes on it and becomes official.
Thank you.
So but for clarification, that would be after the public hearing on this, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so not immediately following this decision, but next month.
Next month, correct. Thank you.
Was there anything that you wanted to? Okay.
Nope.
All right, well, I have a motion from Ms. Bola.
And I am going to amend the motion
Okay.
to, Mr. Bickner, I need some help here. I'm going to amend the motion to approve the policy with the changes that were indicated earlier
In our discussion, yes.
in our discussion.
Approve
Is
as
that
amended.
sufficient?
As approved as it will be amended,
Correct.
approved for advertising, yes.
Got it.
Okay. Do we have a second to the amended motion?
I think Ms. Clark seconded it.
I'll make a second.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right. So I have a motion from Ms. Bola and a second from Ms. Clark. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to say that if and when something changes, obviously by law, or if something comes anew, this is not, every policy is not written in stone and we
Correct.
can change it because that is our job.
The law
Correct.
holds first.
Right.
Yep.
Law comes first.
That's correct. And generally speaking, whenever they drastically change something, like when this was first pushed through with 1467, there's an effective by date. So it gives us time to get our policy in order, at least our first draft of our policy in order. All right, so we have a motion from Ms. Bola, a second from Ms. Clark on the amended policies. Yes. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's okay. Take a minute. Sometimes if you hit
Ms.
the
Sonora,
refresh.
can you vote for anyone who hasn't yet? Thank you.
All right. Next item, D5, proposed allocations for 2023-2024. I believe this was, oh, it doesn't say who. It was there already. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion
For approval?
for approval.
Okay.
I'll
I have
second
a
it.
motion from Ms. Hanson and a second from Ms. Bola. Any discussion? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right. Mr. Bickner, do you have any further comment?
I do have one. I wanted to express my appreciation to the public for their comments tonight. I usually don't clap and I usually don't cheer, but many times I felt like it tonight. I finally heard some outrage from the community at the injustice that's been going on with regard to this whole book mess, and I was excited by it. So, thank you, community.
All right. School board member comments. I'll start with Ms. Hanson.
I didn't know it was going to be like this when I ran for office. It's nothing like a good learning experience. I do want to say on a lighter note that I went to Middleburg Elementary today and watched a vocabulary parade, and I realized how important what we do is and what a great county that we have. And that's really about it. Appreciation for you guys for letting me discuss something that was weighing heavy on my mind. And thank you, Mr. Bickner, and Mr. Daly, and Mr. Brodsky for your patience.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. Ms. Clark?
I was at William E. Cherry today, and one of the last comments was that the little ones don't understand why the new books can't go on the shelves. They don't get it. And we don't get it either. So obviously, you know, this is taking up too much air. Our biggest challenge is getting students back in the library and reading. Not enough do. But we've got bigger problems we need to work on, and this is taking up too much time. So I hope this will help resolve it. We said last year that we would have amendments. So it's just all the laws are so convoluted. I just want to make sure that we're where we need to be. That's it.
Ms. Skipper?
Yeah, I want to, did Mr. Daly leave or pop out? I just wanted to tell Mr. Daly he's done a really good job, and thank you for answering phone calls, answering questions, trying to work around this, advocating for parents, advocating for our rights, no matter what side, you know, you're on, because it is America and it is important. But keeping our libraries clean is definitely a priority, in keeping porn out. I know that there's still people and individuals who think that that didn't exist. It did, it 100% did. I can give you a list and you can go read it. They were disgusting. There was pictures, it was bad. But that wasn't just Clay County. That's been all over the United States. And as a mother and as a parent advocate, it did turn my stomach, because we are here to educate our little ones. I always say, like one of our speakers tonight, get back to the basics: reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I mean that still today, getting our teachers back in front of a board and teaching. With that being said, our job is to amend policy, create policy, so as things change, we can do that. And I also want to say that we do have an amazing CTE department. I had the opportunity this past week to go play in some dirt and play with some heavy machinery that actually surprised my husband. Told him I was ready to start digging my pool that he won't let me have in my backyard. Who needs an excavating company? Anyways, that's something that I feel that we do very well, is that department. And what an opportunity to see so many businesses and community leaders and departments come together for that reason, for our children, and understanding that not everybody's college bound, and we have jobs that need to be filled here in America. So I was very excited to see all of that. That's it. And me and Miss Mary got a picture together if anybody wants to see it. Miss
Great
Paula.
picture. So I always say that January is a busy month, and February was just as busy with a lot of things, a number of things with CTE. They had their career fair at the fairgrounds, which is another opportunity for students to find jobs that are not necessarily within the realm of college attendance. However, the colleges were there and talking to the kids about attendance. They were talking about specialty programs, businesses from throughout the county that were there to literally offer jobs to our students as they were coming through. We bussed many seniors out there. This year, those students, last year it was sort of funny watching the students because they had never been to one of these before. This year, they walked up, they came Clay High rocks. Those kids arrived, many of them in ties and shirts, and all spiffied up, ready to literally talk about jobs. And that was huge. And yes, the construction career days that CTE gets involved with, I have to give a shout out to Kelly Mosley. She did beat me in the nail driving competition. And Dana Brock, using an excavator. And I had to leave before you got into that excavator, Ms. Skipper, and it wasn't intentional much. Afraid of what you might have done. Shout out to the Oakleaf Jazz Program. Oakleaf High School and Oakleaf Junior High combine and have a jazz evening. And always invite, and I always go, and my husband always goes, because we love the entertainment. And it is phenomenal what students can learn in just 2 years of junior high band. They were awesome. Mr. Brodsky and I were at Keystone Heights Elementary when the teachers were allowed to come into the cafeteria for the first time. They're building this new cafeteria. The teachers and the students have been watching this building go up. I spoke with one of the teachers who said, I've been talking about the jobs that each of these individuals are doing, pointing out there's the engineer, there's the excavator driver, there's this person, there's that person. That guy who's driving that dump truck is making more than I am as a teacher. And when the kids are applying that knowledge to something that is literally growing up in front of them, but standing in that cafeteria, and when the teachers first came in, the pride in their faces was second to none. It was
theirs. It was a new area. The art teacher particularly was very thrilled about seeing the facility that she was going to have. She would get to move out of a portable where there was very little room into a facility that was built for art, and a music room as well as part of this cafeteria. And the contractor who was showing us around and talking about the new this is not where we're going to stop. We're going to revamp this entire entranceway to the school, and we're going to be doing this, and we're going to be I mean, the pride was obvious, very evident. Career fair, I mentioned at the playground, attending the Oak Leaf Pass and Review. My former 5th grade student, Landon Kreiner, was the CO of the Navy ROTC unit there. And attending that pass and review truly brought a lump to my throat. And seeing him in uniform, I'm wishing him the best. He has applied to the Naval Academy, and I keep praying for him and hoping that he gets in. And Mr. Boyack said, well, Miss Bowley, you're already here, so come to the basketball game. And I was like, basketball game? Awesome. And Miss Clark and I were both high school basketball players. These girls could have run rings around us. It was the final game before the Final Four. And they creamed the other team. It was awesome. And being in the gym and watching this made me just incredibly proud of them. They went to the Final Four, unfortunately lost their first game, so they didn't quite make it through, but it was truly, truly wonderful. I always mention the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. I always want you to contribute. The more you contribute to the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, the more zip codes we can add. We're currently at 32073 and 32043, and for those who are not aware, it's providing free, F-R-E-E books to children from birth to age 5. 60 books by the time they are 5 years old, and all the parents need to do is fill out the application. Definitely good luck to our FFA and 4-H participants in the fair. This is the time of year when it's going to get their time. They're not going to get a lot of sleep that week of the fair week. And finally, I need to do a shout out to my husband. Today is our 38th anniversary. Wayne, dear, you are my best friend. And for date night, I'm taking him to Oklahoma tomorrow night at Ridgeview High School. And on Saturday night, we're going to Orange Park High School for their play as well. So they are putting on Is He Dead? I hope that doesn't have anything to do with it. It's supposed to be fun. So thank you.
Wow, is he dead for your anniversary? That's something.
Sounds like an interesting play.
It sure does. It sure does. Well, I hope we can all take away from tonight the fact that books matter. And I hope that every parent will take this challenge to read with your children, to read to your children, and to make literacy one of the highest values in your home. Read a bedtime story with them tonight. Maybe it's a little too late. Maybe do it tomorrow night. Everyone have a good night. This meeting is adjourned.
Don't forget, we got to